Hello, everyone, and welcome to Smashbox TV's podcast 384. And we got to get it started. Happy New Year, first and foremost, to everyone out there. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We hope, of course, that you had a good Christmas and a very good New Year. And this New Year in disc golf and beyond already kicking off with an incredible bang. Lots of things going on.
Not a slow start.
No, plenty of disc golf conversation taking place. We're going to jump into a whole bunch of it tonight. There's been a lot of switches, moves, changes, updates, contracts, negotiations, all of those types of things, plans, all unfolding. And one of the largest conversations that took place here in this offseason has really just come to fruition after a lot of conversation, a lot of chatter, and even more rumors in the old disc golf rumor mill. None other than Ricky Wysocki.
The best kept secret in disc golf, I heard.
Yeah. That was about as quiet as his gregarious laugh is time and time again. If there's one thing that everybody can know and recognize from a distance, it's that chuckle by Ricky Wysocki. And in just a few moments, we're going to have him join us. Sounds like he's got a very busy night. Not only did he have the signing and the press conference earlier today, along with the big official announcement. But now it's a little bit of a mini tour of, press stops and doing other things, signing discs, him along with his new teammate in Kona Panis. Exciting. And then after we talk to him, get all the details, we're going to squeeze every single detail you want to know out of them, out of him and his manager, Ari.
The smartest woman in disc golf.
We will then jump into a lot of the other conversations. So without further ado, your two-time world champion and now your PDGA Player of the Year, Ricky Wysocki. Rick, and Ari, his manager. Welcome. How you guys doing?
Good. Just
Great.
keep the DD logo. How do you guys think I look in the DD logo? Look good?
Looks pretty sharp.
Looks good. I know everyone's talking about how this is a homecoming and this and that, but really, you were never sponsored by DD. You were a Latitude player. I know it's all under the Trilogy family and there's a lot of intermingling, but this is kind of new to you as DD, right?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of first of all, thank you for having me on the show. That's awesome to be here and glad to share some time with you guys and talk about what's happened in the disc golf world with not just me, but like you said, with Kona and lots of other people. I'm glad to be a part of it. But yeah, no, it's an interesting time for the sport and for me working with Dynamic, it's definitely a little bit different. A lot of the stuff and the people that I was working with at Latitude was with in Sweden. And those are great people, and it definitely made my decision to come here a lot easier, knowing that I've worked with all the guys in Sweden that work with Latitude. So yeah, it's been awesome. They've been really easy to work with. Ari, I feel like, had a great time, and she helped talk back and forth with them a lot, and she definitely, I think, appreciates how they handle business, and it's been overall great.
And for those of you that don't know Ari, I mean, she's over here just to, I guess, screen right. Ari is your tour manager, correct? Is that her official?
Yeah. So if you guys haven't met her on tour or seen her on tour, now you officially have met her. This is Ari. She's been with me on tour for about, 2 years now?
Yeah. Going on our third season.
She's the woo, right?
Yeah.
She's the woo that you hear.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
She's just the thing why people talk crap about her, but at the same time it's like everybody wants a cheerleader, right? And so she's my cheerleader and supports me. Like everybody's just jealous of that. I feel like everyone wants them to woo after they make a gimme 10-foot putt. And
that's who Ricky's waving to after every putt. Just waving to Ari.
Yeah. The only bad thing is sometimes when I shank a shot, she still claps like it's a good shot, and then I want to.
Oh my god! I do.
She used to do that, but not anymore. That actually makes insult. That actually makes the bad shot even worse when someone claps, even if it feels like it was bad.
And when it's someone who you have to tour, you're touring with constantly too. Yeah.
Exactly.
All right. Well, one of the things, Ari, and is thank you for joining us as well. I think this is your first time here with us, but
me.
of course. But as Ricky's just saying, You have been a cheerleader for so many players. You are not just Rick's cheerleader. For so many times, any good shot that happens by truly any competitor, I have seen or heard you clap and cheer for them just the same. So with all of that, knowing that you clearly are out there for some good golf, you got a favorite, but you're out there for the good golf, give us a little bit of your backstory, and then how in the world did you get to be Ricky Wysocki's manager? How did that relationship develop?
Well, I come from a poker background, 22 years in a poker room. I want to say it was 5 or 6 years ago, I hired Rick and a couple other pros to fly out and play a surprise birthday round with my partner, boyfriend at the time. And we just had common interests, and we just stayed in touch, and we would go to 3 or 4 tournaments every year and support Rick. And then he came to stay with us during the right after Waco for the lockdown, and that's kind of where it started and where the idea came about. All those years where we'd meet Rick at tournaments, and I'd be cleaning out his van and organizing his van and helping him with his laundry, and it was kind of always an idea in the back of my head of, well, how do these guys who are they're on the road all year long and they don't have any help. So that's kind of how it came about. And then we just kind of said, you know what, let's do it. Let's try it. Let's see how it works. And I think that it worked really well. He now has all the time he needs to just practice and play. So that's his job. My job is everything else, whether it's laundry or cooking or talking to sponsors or answering emails or helping with social media. All of that is my job. And Rick, all his job is to practice and to play. And I think it's really helped him with that. He doesn't have to worry about anything. And I think that's something that as the sport grows and as the money in the sport grows, I think it's something that a lot of touring pros should consider getting a little help. I know that Emerson's going to be having a tour manager next year, and I think Jules is going on the road with Big Germ, and it's fantastic to see. These guys, they can't do it everything. I mean, they're their own marketer, they're their own social media guy, they're their own dealing with sponsors, and the sport's just getting to a point where that's just not necessary anymore.
Well, let's face it, pre-Ari, no helicopter. Post-Ari, with Ari, we have helicopter. I mean, that's all that needs to be said.
Big for disc golf. Ari is big for disc golf.
I mean, really, if we just break it down. No, and it's everyone knows that here on the show, we love talking to our pros, but people have really harp on us, pardon the pun, to also have a little journalistic integrity, whether we want it or not. And so with that comes a few of the questions that people feel like, whether they're truly entitled to them or otherwise, they still want to ask them. And today during the press conference, there were a number of times, Rick, where you simply said you couldn't talk about that. And those were largely questions based on your relationship, your past relationship with Innova. So my follow-up to that would be, for either of you, is what exactly can you or can you not talk about with regard to that, and why is that?
He's pointing to Ari. Nice.
Okay.
Good choice.
That means
I will respectfully decline to answer any questions regarding Rick's agreement with Innova.
Okay, and
right.
So with regard to what his agreement was up until whatever point we're at right now, as in his previous agreement, was that some of the information that you had that then brought into the conversation in talking to EMAC, in talking to Rusco, and how much of that spilled over from taking from one and then building on it or addressing it for how you started conversing with DD?
Well, I think that disc golf has changed and disc golf is growing. And Dynamic is a company that sees that growth and is going to capitalize on that growth. They, from the very beginning, they saw how important not only Rick's play, but Rick's brand. Rick has an incredible brand. And, I'm with him all the time. So I see it 24/7. But I don't know if people really see how sweet and genuine he is and how much he loves his fans. So he spends a lot of time conversing with his fans on Instagram and growing his brand and giving back to his fans. He knows that he wouldn't be where he is without those fans, and he likes to do whatever he can to give back. Dynamic really saw that and really got that, and that was really important for us. That another company, whoever particularly Rick went to, recognize Ricky not only as an athlete, because we all know what a tremendous athlete he is, but also to see him as a brand and what that brand does, because branding is very, very important. I mean, it kind of goes hand in hand with the play. You can have absolutely amazing play, but when you don't have a brand that goes along with it, it kind of makes it difficult. It's difficult to negotiate big contracts for you to get paid what you're worth. And that's something that's a conversation that me and Rick have had a lot, is know your worth. These players bring a ton to the table. And I think gone is the days of just manufacturers sitting on that and not seeing that the players really do push the plastic. They push the brands. People want to throw what the pros throw.
So
did I skirt that okay?
No, I mean,
as well as you could.
Yeah, no, it's a great answer.
Yeah, wow.
So you brought up manufacturers. I have to ask, were there talks with other manufacturers, Ricky, other than Dynamic for this year? And how important was Ari in the negotiations with either other sponsors, not just disc sponsors, but maybe other, anybody, bags,
any brand sponsors,
any other sponsors, and specifically with Dynamic?
Yeah, so I'll start off the question and then pass it on to Ari. So I'll give a little build up. So obviously, like she said, she's been on tour for 2 years now, going on 3 years. So she sees the ins and outs every single day of what goes on, how I am. And so she knows me better than anybody. And so that's first of all important for her to be able to represent me in that aspect to different companies. And obviously I feel comfortable with it. And also that allows her to basically speak for me better than almost I can speak for myself, because she knows me that well. And so I think that's, been super important, and I'm super thankful that she spent enough time with me and put up with me for that long to be able to get to know me that well. But no, that's a dynamic was super important. I think the 2 years that we spent together set us up for the spot that we're in right now, and that we were just in the last couple months when she started to go through negotiations. And then I'll pass it on to her for the rest of that once we got into talking to all the different companies.
Yeah, there was Discraft was also involved in wanting Rick. I spent a lot of time with Bob Giulio, and he is pretty amazing. There's not one bad thing I can say about my experience with Bob Giulio. He's really the salt of the earth, and his transparency with me on what they could provide, what they couldn't provide, what they thought we could do going forward was refreshing, first and foremost, but also appreciative on our end. It was really nice to have conversations with two companies that were like, well, this is what we want to do. How are we going to get there? How can we meet in the middle? We want to give you guys what you want, but we need a little something in return. So that was great. Either two companies, it was a really hard, it was a hard decision. And Dynamic spoke the loudest and ended up with the contract. And I'm really excited. I'm excited for Rick moving forward, and I'm excited for Dynamic. We work really, really well together, and very as a team. It's one thing to talk about being a family, um, but the proof is in the pudding. And just in the past couple weeks, Dynamics really proved that, you know what, they want to be a family. They want to be there for Rick.
So I'm going to follow that one up, and I think a lot of people find that interesting because everyone knows, Rick, that you and Paul have had these epic battles. You both acknowledge that you guys are these fierce competitors, and that the offer, maybe not only was there an offer on the table, but you were clearly considering it. I guess the follow up to that would be, though, was part of the decision that you were a larger standout star possibly on the dynamic disc team versus the Discraft team, which has been very extensively thickened and built out over these last few years? Was there any considerations there as to kind of where you fit in on one team versus another?
I mean, yeah, it definitely weighed into the conversation. I mean, I think that there's something that was kind of for me, obviously, yeah, me and Paul battling and being rivals for as long as we have been. It would have been weird for us to be on the same team, just for me, because I'm so used to just being cutthroat competitors with him, and so yeah, that definitely, and not to mention, yeah, it's still, that goes to mention, Bob and how he acts and how he handles business. But yeah, I think that at the end of the day, it definitely played a role in obviously me choosing Dynamic. Obviously, a lot of other variables, with just the facts that, easy to work with and all that, and a lot of different things that we discovered throughout working with Dynamic that made us make that decision. But yeah, the rivals was I was talking to Ari about it. It was something that it was hard for me to get over that. It was something to where over the last couple of years, I've, really grown my brand and I've played well, best player in the world, this year, and, in almost every category. And so I think that, I really feel like I'm starting to break out of the shadow of living in Paul's shadow. It's something to where, yeah, I'm that's in the past. I'm moving forward, and I feel like I'm done with that stage of my career. I'm grown. I'm a better player, better athlete, better brand. And yeah, that's super exciting for me in my future.
So kind of following up on that with regard to just the brands in general, and I would have asked this earlier, is it interesting that we see Dynamic as the one that you came back to, or that you've gone to now specifically, as opposed to Latitude? And I know Johnny made that distinction to start the show, that you're with Dynamic and not Latitude. Was there a conversation with Latitude? Was there a bidding war? Did Latitude say, hey, you can have this one and we'll take the next good guy that comes along? What was that conversation like? Because a lot of people would say it feels even more natural for you to go back specifically to Latitude, which is where you won your 2 world titles.
Yeah, so for me, it was, I think that obviously, a lot of stuff when I was with Latitude 3 or 4 years ago, a lot of the stuff went through Dynamic. And so for me, just back then until now, is a lot of stuff went through Dynamic as it was. Even if I ordered discs, talking to people, all that stuff was all from Sweden. So I just ended up talking to people here in the Dynamic headquarters. And so I think that probably played a big role. It kind of seems like a lot of Latitude players are now in Europe. Like, you got Kristen, you got Silver, you got Albert, you got all those players. They're all great players, and they're all sponsored by Latitude. So I think that's kind of where they're trying to go. I'm not 100% sure. I'm just kind of speaking from what it looks like. But yeah, I think that Latitude definitely had a role, and hopefully they put in a good word for me for the years that I put in with them, and I think they did. Just working with Berglund, the owner of Latitude. But yeah, they work closely together. It's all under the same umbrella. So it's a different brand, but they all have the same business model, the same core values that I really want to align with. And that was the most important thing. I think for them, they saw that in me, that I'm a genuine person. You get what you see is what you get. And same for them, working with them and doing business with them in the past. Is the same kind of deal. What you see is what you get. There's no funny business. And I love that.
Now, a few people have asked this, and I I almost asked it of Kona earlier today because it's more valid than ever. You and Kona getting your largest guaranteed contracts ever, where almost regardless of how you play, you're going to be getting a substantial check, certainly her largest as well. How do you stay focused? One, knowing that money's coming in regardless, and then two, does a guaranteed contract help or hurt when you're maybe even in a slump?
I think it.
Can I tack
So
that
for
one?
me, it does. Yeah, go for it. Then I'll tell you the real response.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah.
That's how we are. So don't worry. Don't think anything.
I know people are going to be like, oh.
I can't believe he treats her like that. Gosh.
Yeah, no, that's not how I am. I promise.
I know people are going to.
No, I do love to hear her perspective though, because you deal with players like Rick in the best of the best and the worst of the worst days. So that I do want to hear
all
it.
the time.
I think that
Yeah, that's true.
I had to learn really early on. A D-Glow 2 years ago comes to mind, Ricardo, where it's we've had an interesting time with It's First or Nothing with Rick. You know what? And second and third can be pretty good too. So as far as like with the money goes, Rick is a saver. He's a bit of a penny pincher.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he's gonna spend the exact same amount and ferret the rest away. And I don't think, to be honest with you, that's gonna come into his play at all. If Rick doesn't win a tournament, he feels like he's let his fans down. And I don't know, I might get in trouble for sharing that. But he gets upset. And it's not just for him, but for the fans too, because the fans come out and see him at the tournaments and they tune in and they watch on the various post-production as obviously as well as DGN. And he really feels like he's let him down. And that's not, I have to tell them, that's not the case. They love just watching you play. They love watching you bang putts from 60 feet like it's nothing. So I don't think the money is going to influence the play at all. I think it might even further push him to win because now he doesn't want to let DD down. Do you know what I mean? So now I'm not going to let the fans down, and I'm not going to let Dynamic down. They're paying me all this money. I'm doing this job. I need to do it, and I need to perform for them. And I think that's how his mindset's going to be going in. How'd I do?
You did great. You did better than I would have done. That's for sure. Yeah, that's why it's scary sometimes. But yeah, I take this immense amount of pressure and I put on myself. Like she was explaining perfectly. So I obviously it goes great when I win, but I dive deep into this pressure getting me and putting me in weird funks after the event because I feel like I said, I let my, whether it's my sponsor, my fans, all the people that came out to watch, I put this pressure on myself, immense amount of pressure. And that's all I'm there to do is to win. And I want to make them happy. I'm like there to make my fans happy and excited for me that I won. And so that's my goal as a player and as an athlete, is to win. And especially in my spot. And you always see these NFL players and stuff, once they get deep into depression when they're done playing, because they just feel like that's their sole value in life, is to supply a team or to supply a sponsor or somebody this immense amount of value based on their play. And if you don't perform well, you're just not worth anything. And so whether money or not's involved, it's still going to be the same mindset. I want to do it for a Dynamic. It doesn't matter. Obviously they could be, the amount of money makes it even more, it polarizes it, or makes it even more. But at the same time, it's still going to be that same mindset as, hey, I want to do this for a Dynamic. And if I do, it's great. But if I don't, there's that still immense pressure I put on myself no matter what.
How much I mean, we talked about how Ari is, an agent. She takes care of your scheduling, all that. How much is she a psychologist for you? Honestly, because we've talked about sports psychologists in the past, and they focus on something. Someone maybe gets the yips and they have to go see a sport. But how much do you get? Do you get to like sit down in the van? You guys travel a lot together. You're with each other 24 hours a day some days. How much does she listen, so to speak?
She listens even when I'm not like saying anything. I'll just be sitting there after a tournament, sitting there like a friggin' stinky fart, not doing anything, just staring at the wall. And and she's literally like knows what's going through my head and all this other stuff. It's crazy. But anyways, yeah, it's crazy. Like she said that response just because she's been around me so many times. Like, dang, how'd you know that? I'm like, yeah, you were at every tournament, so you can see that. But she is very good at psychology. She's definitely something I feel like she has a passion for because she's good at it. But yeah, she's great at it with me because she can read me and help me out as a person too, to say, hey, what are you doing here? Like, because I've always been the type of person where I'm introverted for the most part when I'm by myself, and like after a tournament, I'll just sit there and think about what certain things for a long period of time, and I'm just in the car for a 10-hour drive, and I'm just hanging on to that for who knows how long. She gives me about 30 minutes, and then she just says, all right, you're done now. And, I get to express it, and I get to just blow up on her for about 20 minutes and punch the steering wheel and call her all kinds of names just to lash out at her. And she's just my punching bag of emotions to let out. And so.
Can I share our first tournament?
Uh-oh.
Can I share them for you?
Yeah, how comfortable were you? Let's hear this, Ari.
And what was the tournament? What was the first tournament?
Our first tournament together was right after the lockdown, and it was the Dynamic Disc Open in Emporia, and I think you got 5th. And we were staying in this little studio Airbnb. I was staying on the couch as I love a couch. And we get back. We're literally 6.5. I love sleeping on a couch. I'm sorry. We're about 6.5 feet away. He's on his computer. He did not speak one word to me for 2 hours and 45 minutes. I timed it, and I'm on my phone, and I'm texting my boyfriend at the time. I go, Ricky, not happy, scared for my life, send help. Like, I had no idea how to, because most of the tournaments we've gone to, Rick has won. So we get this gregarious, happy Rick, which, let me tell you, is the best person in the world. And I hadn't witnessed. Now, I don't think 5th place is bad. Well, shame on me, I guess. I mean, I would think 5th place isn't that horrible. So it kind of evolved from that. So now he gets it. It's and I equate it with, these guys are on tour by themselves, and Ricky's been on tour for 10 years by himself. So he goes, he plays a tournament, he does whatever, and then he sits and he drives. And it's all up in here. So every hole. And when we get back to the car after a tournament or after a round, and you can see it in his eyes, and he's doing stuff with his hands, and he's just like that shot or like just. And so, but if it doesn't come out, where does it go? It doesn't go anywhere. It just tumbles around in your head. So, yeah, now he gets 5 minutes to be a grumpy Gus, and then he has to just spew it, like this shot here, and what was I doing here, and this and that, and then after that, he's happy and laughy again, and you know what? We're on to the next one. So his growth in that area has been tremendous and amazing, and it's just like everything else. I shouldn't call him a kid, but it's just like everything else that he does. He's a student of everything he does. And he takes teaching moments as teaching moments. And now it's just, he just moves on. This is what I did wrong. This is what I have to fix. Off to the next one. Off to the races. Let's go. And it's a treat to see. It's a treat to watch.
I have to ask, and maybe Ari needs one, but with this new contract, did Ari get a raise?
Oh yeah, she definitely did.
Okay, all right. Well, then you don't need me, Ari. I was going to push for one. I mean, that or Smashbox is stealing you, because sometimes I got to put up with him. So, well, good. Congratulations to Ari and to Ricky on that.
Well, I got 2 follow-ups. The quick one is, Rick, you, as Ari and most of the disc golf world knows, you are very budget conscious. Put it however you want to put it. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. There's this funny stigma that, like, hey, you've got money, so you should be spending it.
He's not splitting 2-ply paper in the back of the van. I don't think.
So my question was, when's the last time you bought a new pair of shoes? Do they are the soles ripped out of your shoes right now? Your shoes good?
Oh no, those are bye-bye. No. Once
okay.
Holes, no. Bye-bye.
Okay. So that's good. So
that was a battle she was fighting for a while. Is I would have holes in my shoes. I'm like, no, those are good. I just got a couple more rounds on them. Don't throw them away.
Oh. Oh yeah. All right. So
our shoe glue. We'll get some shoe glue. We'll cover up the hole.
So, and honestly, all of us should be able to appreciate that of you. That you're not going all big time with these big contracts and such, and that's just clearly not in you. But one of the parts to this contract and some of the recent contracts we've seen, and that includes Kona's and Paul's and so on and so forth, is that there is this transparency. There is this public knowledge of what's going on. And so clearly we know the details with you, 4 years, $4 million minimum. It can be more based on some sales and other things, along with a signing bonus, which we'll get to in a moment. And then you also talk about Ari and manager and whatnot. Where do we draw the line? Is Ari, is your salary anyone's business? Is that cut salary, whatever you want to call it? Is
percentage?
That percentages? Are those public numbers for anyone that cares?
No, I think that's something that, between me and Rick. If Rick wants to, there's just a lot that goes into it. So it's not just numbers, and obviously, a bonus for me for helping with the deal, and I get a salary, but there's more that goes into it with touring, and he covers a lot of those costs, and so yeah, I think that I will pass that to Rick. If Rick wants to share that, that's up to him. And if not, then,
It's fun to put the pressure on someone else, huh, Rick?
It is. I'm always putting it on her. Now she's doing it back to me. I don't like it.
Share if you want. So, I'm just fitting into a theme.
Yeah. No. So I pay her salary, and then we sell discs, and there's all kinds of other stuff that goes into it as well. But yeah, so it's kind of hard to really give an answer, honestly. Okay. Even if I wanted to, I couldn't just be like, hey, here's the number. Sure. It's more of like, there's a lot of other stuff. I pay her salary for a lot of the stuff she does, psychology, agent, secretary.
Are those line itemed out in taxes?
Yeah, exactly. Right?
This week I gave you 10 minutes of
psychology work, and then
we do Wysocki boxes, and there's a different amount for the Wysocki boxes, and we do a lot of disc sales on Instagram, and he does all the messages and I do the fulfillment. So and then we split that money, and so there's not really a quantified amount. I mean, I could really make as much as I want to make, or have time with him to make. So I think it works amazing.
Sounds like it.
A couple disclaimers. One, and I know we could have this argument for hours, but I personally, I don't think I'm entitled to know anyone's salary, anyone's contract information. I know that's becoming a trend. I know that's in all professional sports, blah, 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 blah. I've always been of the mindset that is really none of my business, although I know sports acts differently. So that's one of my disclaimers, just so you guys know. However, so then I guess a follow-up to it, though, would be for you, Ari, is should there be more of you? Should there be more managers? Do you see it as a viable relationship/career for more of our players, that they have someone like you? I know,
no one like Ari
can replace or duplicate you.
She could do Ari training.
Should there be a team, or a bunch of, or a slew of team managers, and at what level should people, be seeking them out?
You know what? It is It is a viable option for a lot of players. Emerson's going to be doing it next year, and I've talked to Eagle about his girlfriend and her coming on tour and how to make it more viable. And it's definitely it's viable, and it's just how hard you want to work to help the athlete make the money. But if you want to perform better, I think it's essential. There's not enough hours in the day for these players. They get up Monday, they travel. Sometimes it takes 2 days to travel. So you've got Monday and Tuesday. Then you're practicing Wednesday and Thursday. Then you're playing Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then you get up again on Monday and you travel again to the next place. And all of that, you have to grocery shop, you have to cook your own meals, you have to do your laundry, you have to answer your emails and your stuff online, and deal with sponsors and do your social media. And I think the sport's getting to the spot where that kind of has to happen to give yourself the best shot moving forward. There's so many things on your mind without help, and when the only thing that you should be focusing on is your play and your practice. So yeah, I'm open to anybody who is like, well, how do you guys do it? I share it all. I mean, I don't hold back on the things that I do for Rick and how we make that possible, how we make that financially viable for the both of us, so that it works.
Well, and to be fair,
I do see some off-season RE training. She's just got like a whole bunch of managers. Like, this is how it's done. Like, she's charging
the
for that.
RE training camp.
Yeah.
Well, and to be fair, having
forbid.
someone as successful and as marketable and personable and everything else as Rick, certainly you're in a great position. There's some people that have much taller tasks, but
of it.
Well,
but if you want to grind,
mm-hmm.
then it can be done, I think, on any level. But you have to be willing to grind. You have to be willing to vend at every single event. So I think on any level, it's viable. In my opinion, any level, it's viable if you want to grind.
I want to get into a little bit more about the contract. We talked about the amount, $4 million for 4 years with a $250,000 signing bonus in Bitcoin. Let's start there with the Bitcoin. Is that something that did they give you the money and you purchased it? Did they purchase the Bitcoin and then transfer it over to you? I'm not exactly sure how the crypto works. I've got now I have way less Bitcoin than you, Ricky. So
yeah,
how did that work?
So we're actually still working out the details. Basically, at the end of the day, what's going to happen is that $250,000 is going to be in Bitcoin, whether it's they buy it and send it to me or I buy it and they send me the money and I just buy that in Bitcoin. So either way, I'm good. It's going to be straight up in Bitcoin entered into the market, which is important to me. I think that I'm a firm believer in crypto and Bitcoin especially. It's the most stable of all the cryptos, and I think that with that amount of money, I want to be in the most stable coin. I don't want to be in Dogecoin that has a chance to lose 80 or 100% in 2 days. Bitcoin does rise and drop, but it doesn't, not nearly at that much volatility. So I felt comfortable, and I do mess around with other cryptocurrencies, just not with that amount of money.
So, that's good.
But it was more, it was my idea, and I just represented it to Dynamic. I said, hey, and a lot of the NFL guys were getting paid in crypto, and I think that that's something I'm a firm believer in, and I think it would be cool to kind of be the first one in disc golf to do that. And I think there's a big crossover, and a lot of people appreciated that I went public with it and thought it was kind of cool. And, I know Ben Askren reached out, and I guess he does a lot of crypto stuff.
He's got a podcast.
He wants me on his podcast. Yeah. So he was reaching out, wanting me to be on his podcast about crypto. And so that'll be kind of cool. We'll probably be on there in the next couple of weeks to talk about crypto and disc golf and maybe the crossover there, which is kind of cool. So that's where that came from.
And I think it's kind of cool because I think I saw on Reddit today that you made your contract made r/sports, which is one of the big sports subreddits, as well as maybe it was r/Bitcoin as well at the top of that, talking about, hey, a disc golfer just got their signing bonus in Bitcoin. And so I think there's a real potential there. I think it's a smart move for multiple reasons, but especially for branding. Honestly, I mean, we've seen a lot of athletes right now promoting different cryptocurrency, either platforms or things like that, and that this is just another way to get your name, Wysocki Bomb, and disc golf and DD out into another avenue or another courtyard, so to speak.
Exactly. And that's a great point. And all that goes back to the fact that I've been into it for a couple years now, and, watching videos, talking to people, and just believe in the core, values of crypto and where it's going to be in the future. And I think that there's a big crossover there.
All right. So other aspects, we know about the money. That's awesome. The highest known disc golf contract, right there with Paul. What are some of the other parts of the contract? We see a lot of players right now that are talking about, like James Conrad got to design his own disc. Paige Pierce, Paul Macbeth has his own line. Drew Gibson is doing his own line. Is that in your future as well? Are we going to see a Wysocki Bomb set of discs that are unique to you and DD?
Yeah, definitely. So
did you just look off screen over to like Jeremy Rusko? Like, am I getting that? Come on.
No.
Rusko's like, awkward. I don't know what's happening.
Yeah, no, he's giving me fair range to go to let loose. But which is cool. I think that's cool. I think I can, the fact that I can go public with everything is awesome. I think that's really something that it does mean a lot, to where I can share what I'm doing with everybody. But yeah, so obviously the money, the signing bonus. And then the next best thing in line would be the Wysocki Bomb line of discs. That's going to be something that we're working on right now, the first disc. And that's going to be am I allowed to talk about that, Jeremy?
Don't look at him.
Yep.
Just not look at him.
Focus.
Look at us. Look at us, Rick.
Focus, Rick. Just keep talking. Smashbox exclusive.
But it's going to be an overstable upshot putter disc. And so it's going to be like basically like similar to a harp with a thumb track on top, and it's going to be a super overstable, versatile putter type of deal. But yeah, that's going to be the first disc in the line, and it's going to be like the can I talk about the name, the line of the discs?
Yeah,
I should be able to.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, everybody
got your name on it.
Everybody wants to know, because one of the big things that everybody struggles with is a naming convention, whether it's whether it's what DD goes with kind of the the felon, the judge, things like that, or you've got like Discraft, which has planets or animals or whatever. So what is Ricky's naming convention?
Actually, I thought about it, and I probably can't say because people might steal my names. If I said all the cool names, it's like Raptor. That's already taken. Like, how cool is that? That's like I'm Raptor legs. Like I need the Raptor.
Yuli.
But I always mess with Yuli. I'm like, dude, like when he took that, I was so salty. So
the disc we're talking.
But I just want someone to hear it and then go like steal the name from me.
Okay, that's valid. We'll get that off. We'll get that off camera.
I'm not going to say anything. Otherwise, I was getting ready to.
Until we see them approved on the PDGA's website. But the point is, you have a line of disc, and is it something that is going to roll out one per year, or you're trying to get them out as quickly as possible? Like, what's kind of the philosophy there?
So I'm working with the designers in Sweden. So the first one is rolling out probably pretty soon. I'll be able to test it and throw it in the field and give some feedback and move forward with that. So that's the first one. I would imagine by the end of the year, I would say we'll have a handful. If I had to guess, if that might be optimistic, but I would say by year 2 we'll probably have the full line out. If I just had to guess, this is not me knowing all the deadlines and stuff, what it takes to make this, because it's pretty involved. But yeah, so the first disc is being made. We got the name. We got a lot of the stuff already down pat. And so it's just the design process, sending it back, me to test it out and make sure it's exactly what I want. And that's cool. It's cool that Dynamic's given me the ability to work with the designer, design the disc strictly to exactly what I want. And so it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool to have a disc name, in my line that I had 100% say in how it flies, how it feels, and all that stuff.
I've got to follow that up and say a lot of our players, and whether that's a Paige or a Paul or yourself, a lot of players, or Steve Rico, who owns his own company, are excited about the idea of designing and developing a disc. Do you feel like, I mean, you're clearly good enough to win worlds with discs that are already made. So I guess, is it just more of almost like is it a marketing or is it an ego thing where you say you have even more say in it? Because there's clearly great molds that are made day in and day out. What is it about that process that makes you feel so good? Like I said, marketing, ego, and I don't mean those in a negative way, but are those part of it?
Yeah. So I
think maybe it's something that doesn't fit. Do you know what I mean? Like, I want something like this, okay? And I want it to do a little bit like this. I mean, this is the conversations that I hear on the outside, because as we're all well aware, I can't tell you what a disc does. But like, I think it's the niche to fit in your bag. You want a very, very specific shot. You want it to do a very specific thing, but that's not out there right now. So I think you have players like Paige and Paul and and Rico. I mean, Stevie has the ability to do it in real time, whereas this, I want it to do exactly it, but there's not something that fits that already. So when you get to be a big name like Rick and Paige and Paul, you can say, this is what I want. I need something that specifically does this. Let's make it. And then you have companies that will stand behind, like Dynamic or whatever, and go, yeah, let's jump on it. Let's put a disc in your bag that does every single thing that you want it to do. I think part of it's that. Am I wrong, Rick? Or
no, you're right about it. And then the other thing is, I like to use the analogy, like, I'm the best player last year, and so I guess I compare it to myself. But there's always stuff for me to work on. I won some of the big tournaments, highest in points and ranking, all that stuff. But there's always stuff I can work on. It's the same thing with a disc. There's always something you can do better and a little bit better. And so if I can create that in a disc to make that little bit better, even if it's already a great disc, that's who doesn't want that, And if you can genuinely make it that little bit better, however you can do it, changing the wing like this, maybe put a thumb track on top, whatever it may be, then that's what I want to do. And that's kind of what I'm getting the free reins to do. Make it a little bit plastic, a little bit stiffer, or, there's just a million different, combinations that you can do to make that disc that little bit better. And so for me, that's what I'm trying to do is, hey, I got this disc. I really like it. How can we maybe change it just a touch to make it more consistent, fly better, fly like this? And yeah, so I think that's the most important thing to me is because there's always a feel or a flight that you wish you had, even if it's just by a tiny smidgen of a difference.
So one of the things earlier today, I'm trying to remember where I was going with that. You were asked in the press conference about basically getting prepared and being ready to throw these discs again, some similar, some different from a few years ago. And you said, there's Hawks and TMZ and everybody out there. You can't just go practice in a field because people will spot what you're doing, which is a funny spot for our sport to even be in, that you have to worry about that. But the question remains now, how long before you feel like you are 100% or 98% comfortable with your bag and your lineup? How quickly can you readjust back to some of this plastic and molds?
So usually for me, if I take an extended period of time off, it's a week to knock off the rust, a week to get back my swing, my timing, everything. And then by week 3, I'm pretty much on point with everything I need to do. My timing's good, my putting's good, sidearm. And so every day I may be working on, hey, today's going to be my backhand day. Get my backhand, get my timing, get all my angles dialed. And then the next day it's going to be sidearm. Get all my angles dialed, get my timing dialed, distances dialed, go to all different distances, get my upshots dialed. And then the next day is going to be putting. I'll go to 30, 40, 50, 60 feet. And so each day is just a little bit of a building block and to get it back. And so that's where I'm going to be at. is just working through each each part of my game to get it back to where I want it to be, and then I'm just doing it with these discs, and it's not going to be any extra because I know for the most part what I'm going to be throwing. It's just more about going through the reps and getting the muscle memory built up to where I need it to be to compete when the pressure comes of a tournament. And so I think by the end of January I'll be 100% dialed, ready to go. And I'm spending the winter in San Diego, so it's gonna be nice weather, and I'll be able to practice pretty much every day. It'll be once I get back to San Diego tomorrow. Actually, this next week on is gonna be just practice. Working out, practice, stretching, and just basically health and wellness, disc golf practice, and that's all that really matters in my life.
Time for a little speculation. Terry mentioned it, and you said it. The disc golf TMZ. Who do you think that is? Who do you think? Where does that come from? Like, is that you talking about, like, talking to someone on the course, like maybe mentioning it, like, oh, I'm talking about this. Not that it is. Is it Ari? Is it someone at DD? Is it a lawyer somewhere that happens to be a disc golf fan? I don't know. Like, where do you think these things start? Or is it just other players? Like, we know there's not a lot of secrets on the tour.
Yeah. I mean, like, it seems like Foundation Disc Golf, that whole thing is all basically just TMZ, I think. Is that bad to say? I don't know. But it just seems like it. That's just, I don't know if that's me, but that's all they seem to post is that kind of stuff. But anyways, yeah, that's something to where it just outsider looking in. That's something to where, whenever I'm looking at something, it's all that seems to be posted. And I guess it is what it is. They think there's a place and a spot for it, which is great, I guess. But when it starts messing with your livelihood, it's just like, it's not such a fun game. It's not just a clickbait festival. You're messing with people's livelihood and stuff. And it's just like, it kind of runs its course real quick when you start doing that kind of stuff. And whether it's me or someone else, I don't want it for anybody. Even if I'm not involved with it, I just don't respect that. And so that's, there's a time and a place, and there's a line for certain things like that. And as soon as you cross that line and start, like I said, messing with people's livelihood, yeah, there's no time and place for that. And yeah, but and like I said, I'm not saying there's drama in disc golf and it should be covered, but nobody, and I'm sure all the super famous actors and stuff, they don't like TMZ. It's annoying. They want to live a life and not have everything, be videotaped and scrutinized, because everything we do on the course is already scrutinized, and then you go off course and still everything's scrutinized. But yeah, it's just a sign of growth of the sport, I guess. And there's, I guess it's a sign that people care what you're doing at the same time. So it's not all bad.
Yeah. And that was going to exactly be my follow-up question is, as much as any news may feel detrimental or clickbaity or whatever, is that a sign of the times that we have speculation, that we have, again, when Johnny and I started this journey 7-8 years ago, there were like 1 or 2 disc golf podcasts. Now there's 10 or 15 or 30 or 50 or whatever it is. There's, we've seen so much growth in so many ways, and everybody has a different way of going about it. And I just think that's all part of the growth. And you have a lot of people with a lot of different agendas, whatever it might be. Okay. So let's,
if I could, Terry.
Sure.
I think one of the things also too is, we worked really hard on this deal, and it was very, very exciting. And for somebody to come and tweet the exact nature of the deal, that's taking away. They're building hype for them, but they're taking that hype away from Rick, which is something for Rick that's well deserved. So I don't know that they care to think about that aspect of it. It's like, boom, 4 years, $4 million. Well, that was kind of Rick's excitement. That wasn't your excitement to take. So there's a little frustration with that too. Let Rick have his own hype. He's earned it.
Yeah, and I think in a similar note, that was a conversation that was had about some other departures and acquisitions earlier in this year about who's making what announcements. And I think as a general philosophy, I think that certainly is something that came to a head this year, and hopefully we'll see it. Well, hopefully we'll see it all work out in the future for everyone. But that's certainly been part of the conversation, I think, on multiple fronts this year. So everyone's excited. Sometimes it's a matter of, I think, getting out in front of things. It takes a lot for me to keep my mouth shut, believe it or not, but somehow I usually...
We were pretty good about it. We were pretty good. Ari, so Ari, I have to ask you.
And then it comes around and it... Oh, sure.
Oh, no, I was going to... No, if we want to continue, I was going to ask you something about the contract.
Well, no, I mean, it turns around and it also it bites you in the tushy. Because, you know what I mean? You want to come out with this stuff. I mean... Wouldn't it have been better to wait and then maybe get Rick on your podcast instead of squashing that altogether? So
I know Rick's on our podcast, so I don't mind. Rick's here where he belongs.
I appreciate how
and there's a reason for that. For sure.
So with this contract, Ari, is there anything we're not talking about? We've talked about the money, we've talked about the discs, we talked about the time. Are we missing anything that is important in the, whether it be anything? I don't even know what else.
Anything else specific to the contract?
Well, I mean, we've got 8 discs. We've got 2 Tour Series discs. And let's talk about the contract itself. Let's talk about our 16.5-page contract that protects, both.
Wait, double space? Single space? What are the margins on this? What's the type?
2 spaces after every period, or just 1?
Is this New Times Roman or Arial?
I fit some 16-page reports in, let me tell you.
All right, okay. All seriousness, let's. What goes into this contract? Who drafted it? And give us more specifics.
Steve with Sunstein.
Okay.
Sunstein out of Boston helped us with this, and it cost us a pretty penny. But we wanted to do it right because that's what the sport deserves right now. We're not playing tiddlywinks. They're throwing discs into a basket, but let's not put the I lost my train on that. But the sport is getting to the point where this is what it needs. Both parties need to be protected, and that's what we've done. And Resco felt the same way as us. So we went back and forth a lot, but it also has our trademark stuff in it and licensing, and which is quite a bit, but everything is spelled out on both sides. And I think that's important for the sport. A handshake, smile, and a slap on the tush isn't what disc golf is about anymore. And I think it's important moving forward that people realize that.
That's unfortunate. I really like the smack on the tush. I'm just saying.
Johnny always tries to sign our contract between me and him that way, and it's getting weird all these years. I tell you.
It's only been 30 years. He hasn't stopped me yet.
That's
true.
Like that much?
We got to renegotiate tonight, Johnny.
Sunstein, a sponsor of the Disc Golf Pro Tour. Is that where you found them? Is that why you reached out to them particularly?
Absolutely. They want to support disc golf, and protecting IP is extremely important. Protecting your brand, protecting your logos. And Sunstein is just really on board with that. They're sponsoring the tour. It's a great group of guys. I can't say enough amazing things about them. And it's the same with LWS. Blake Schaefer and Andrew Young, they've really jumped on board to help the players. I mean, sometimes it's just that little bit of, gosh, do you know somebody? Do you know what I mean? They deal with other professional athletes. They're used to doing the taxes in 18 different states that these guys are winning money. So it's really important to have both of these companies involved in disc golf and really helping the players because sometimes that's just all it takes. It's like, well, gosh, I've been doing my taxes myself. I don't know even if I'm doing it right. Well, now you have an outlet. Just call up Blake, call up Andrew. How do I get my logo trademark? That's super important stuff. Where the sport's going. Now you can just call up Sunstein. So it's really great resources and assets to have. And they're guys that love disc golf. It's a partnership made in heaven. You've got guys that love disc golf, that understand the sport, and they're the best that they are in their field too.
A few weeks ago, we had Blake, and of course, they are stepping up in a major way to become the presenting sponsor over there at Idlewild at that event. And at that time, he told us he is talking more about being an agent and representing our players, our top level players, but he couldn't go into too many specifics at that time. So I guess now that fast forwarding a few weeks, is there anything that you can just shed light on in terms of that relationship? You talk about him and them being an accounting firm, but also then representing. Rick, I think you touched on it a little during the press conference. What does that relationship mean? How does that fit in with Ari versus LWS and Schaefer Sports and all that other stuff? How do those all kind of coexist?
Well, it's great because I have obviously a personal relationship with Blake, and he obviously runs the accounting service and the sports agency service. He's got a great vision for business and for my brand and everybody he works with. And so that's the number one most important thing. And then on top of that, me having a personal relationship, and so does Ari, that throughout the season, if something needs to be done, Ari's the point of contact. She just talks to me for a couple minutes, and then she can relate back to him about whether it's taxes or, hey, we want to invest money in a 401k, or we want to, buy a house or pay taxes, whatever it may be. One of the, million things that pops up, she's the point of contact, talks to him, and basically just gets it done right away. And so the fact that I have obviously a great relationship with Ari and a great relationship with Blake, then she's the point of contact. And that's another amazing thing, is she's the point of contact with a lot of people. I don't even, at this point in my career, I don't really even talk to that many people. Ari knows me well enough so I trust her to say, hey, you can, if it's something that's pretty basic, you can just basically do it. And if it's something important, she comes to me, and so she knows, based on, she can delegate time for, hey, we wouldn't need to spend time getting your taxes done or getting your trademark done or getting your business licensing and all this other stuff done. So she knows what's important. Say, hey, I need you for 10 or 20 minutes today, and then everything else she'll handle on the back end by herself with emails and all this other stuff. So the point of it is, having her as a point of contact instead of me just frees me up to do so much of what I want, like I said, which is eating healthy, making, good food, taking my supplements, working out, and playing disc golf. Anything that it takes to keep my body in shape and keep my game in shape.
So as funny as this sounds, as we continue to gush on Ari here, my real question though, talking about your contract, talking about your contract today and everything that it means, and we skirted around the compensation, which is great. Do you two have a contract? What does that look like? And I'm not concerned about numbers per se, but Rick and Ari, do you two have some form of signed formal agreement contract laid out? And if so, are there terms on it?
No.
Yeah, the terms are. I'm just kidding.
Rick's writing drafting one up right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Because Rick, and I'll let you answer, but I want to say, Rick, you just basically said you more or less trust Ari with your life and your entire financial future at this moment, and that's a lot of pressure and a lot of responsibility on someone like Ari, and we all know and love Ari and her enthusiasm right now. However, this is all serious stuff as well between the two of you, so that's why I ask, and if there is one.
So no, we don't right now. Right, we have obviously a great relationship, and we probably should, just from a business standpoint. So thank you for bringing that up. That's something that maybe we can talk about in the future. But
just got hot in here.
No, here's the thing. If I'm not doing my job for Rick, then I shouldn't. You know what I mean? So me and Rick have always had a very polarizing and amazing relationship where we're really good friends. We're best friends. We talk about the most insane stuff, and we're very close that way. But then there's an age gap too, so we're not so much peers. So it's a very interesting dynamic that we have together. But we have a whole lot of communication, which is the best thing. So if I'm slacking or if Rick's slacking, he'll tell you. I'm always like, okay, are you ready to have an uncomfortable conversation? Because, that lets him know, hey, this might not be the most fun thing that we have to talk about, but it needs to be spoken about. And as Rick's brand grows, I think it is important to for us to have that kind of contract to protect Rick, to protect Rick's assets, to protect me, to protect Rick's brand. So I thank you for bringing that up, because I think that's important. I do a lot of stuff for Rick in his best interest. And just like any other partnership, it's something that needs to be laid out and protected for both sides.
Yeah, nothing nefarious needs, no ill intentions or ill will, but clearly everyone wants to continue to protect themselves. And as Rick's growth and worth and net worth continue to grow, and Ari, your significance and your responsibilities continue to grow. So here's the fun twist to it. Ari, you're Rick's tour manager, and Eric McCabe is Rick's disc golf captain manager. So I think McCabe should write the contract between the two of you.
I love the hey.
Okay.
How big is Saki Bomb Industries now? I mean, you have a tour manager, but you also she can't do everything. You have some fulfillment. I mean, I know we had talked a couple of years ago about some of your family helping you out and doing some fulfillment and such. Can you fill us in general before we let you go tonight? Because I know you.
No, we got one more huge topic after that.
Okay, but I know because you've got like 1,000 discs to sign, and Rusko's just cracking knuckles over there. So, how big is Saki Bomb?
So, to put it lightly, I think Ari's basically, she is the equivalent of 5 employees. So I basically have 5 employees, which that's pretty cool to think that I have 5 employees,
with one paycheck. No. Just don't.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Now it's to the point now where I'm delegating so much to her, and now she's like, all right, well, what's going on here? I'm so stressed and we're so burned out all the time that she needs somewhere to delegate it. And so with my girlfriend coming back, we're going to be able to delegate some of the stuff for Saki Bomb that we're working with the foundation, with all the different things going on. And so I think that is the next step, is finding more ways for her to be able to delegate, because she's just, more than 100%, capacity right now. And so that's going to be the next step for the brand and for everything going on behind the scenes, and all that stuff. So, that's, it's pretty crazy that I've, helped. And she, obviously she's helped my brand grow a lot. It's not just me. It's, a lot of different behind the scenes variables. It's, obviously, I'm in the forefront, but just like anything, there's always stuff that happens behind the scenes that allows stuff to transpire into what it is, which is a lot with my brand. She's helped a ton with it. But yeah, so, it's gotten to the point where we just need to start having her be the head and people working under her, doing, whether it's social media manager. And so she's the overall manager, and then there's all these other branch offs of managers maybe, or job roles under that. All
right. So
we're going to be,
go ahead.
We're going to be bringing back the website this year.
Okay.
Lauren ran the website, and since she passed, we had to shut it down because there's just too much to do on the road. So we're bringing in somebody to do the website full time again. So that's exciting. Lily's coming back. She's going to be doing all the social media. So that's good now. So it's this giant thing, this ball that keeps snowballing and getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And so we're just going to keep adding people as we go to fit the niche pieces that we need.
All right. Well, we're going to start to wrap up on the highest of high notes here.
Well, with Ricky, I want to talk to EMAC real quick after this.
Okay.
Just like 1 or 2 questions.
One of the things that kind of got slid into the press conference today, and again, if it was our podcast, I would have asked 100 more follow-ups to it, but what got slid in, and you just mentioned it again, a Saki Bomb Foundation of sorts. So break it down. What are we expecting? What's going to come out? What are you working on? What does this mean for you and your brand?
What are the goals?
Give us the background.
Yeah. So, it's something I'm definitely passionate about, and it's something to where, I think it's going to be great for disc golf. It's, it's not just going to be good for me. It's good for disc golf, and that's what's stuff that I am so, pumped to do is, obviously I'm making a lot of money, but the first thing when I, found out news and stuff is like, oh, how can I help other people? Like that was just my first reaction. And just to tell you guys, what the emotions were when I first heard about my deal. And so this is one way I can do that. And so the Wysocki Bomb Foundation's first initiative is going to be the First Putt, which is going to be supplying 100 discs with one basket to each school, and just getting them started on their in disc golf. And that's what that's going to do, is going to be a lot of those kids' first putt ever. And so I think it's a fitting name. I just kind of like it was a play on words. Their First Putt is going to be the first initiative in the Wysocki Bomb Foundation. And that's super exciting. And people are going to be sent in, and the Wysocki Bomb Foundation is going to just donate baskets potentially, and hopefully have me showing the PE teachers how to putt, how to drive, and how to upshot, and just keep it simple and just get, grow the sport from the ground level at these schools. And Ari can go into a little bit more detail on top of that.
Wow. Yeah, Ari, that sounds huge.
Oh, it's amazing. It's so exciting, and it's coming to fruition a lot quicker than we thought. We're in the beginning stages, so we're filing all the paperwork we need, and we're building a website. We have email set up, so I'll give the email for it at the end. So we're going to be taking submissions, and what we want to try and do is in the first year we want to at least get to 100 schools. Not just schools, but after-school programs too, where we supply PE teachers, schools with 100 discs and a basket. We're going to have like either a QR code on the actual discs themselves, or it will come with a QR code where they can, the PE teachers can scan it, and it's going to bring up some videos of Ricky showing them how to throw a putter, showing them how to putt, showing them how to do an approach with a putter. Just some quick videos that gives the teachers something that they can do. And, the great thing is that rain or shine, these teachers, they can wheel a basket into the gymnasium and the kids can putt from there. And some schools are going to need a little bit more curriculum than other schools, and we're going to be working on that too. But it's just really exciting. We just want to get to as many schools, after school programs, that we can, to get discs in the hands of kids. Can you imagine all these kids, with Ricky behind them, teaching them how to putt? We're going to have 12-year-olds that are
12-year-olds that are hitting 60-foot putts.
Great.
Yeah, exactly.
We already get beat by 12-year-olds. I don't need to get. Oh.
So it's just a really exciting way. Go ahead, babe.
We were just thinking about how to, like the disc we wanted to give to the kids. I'm thinking like these young kids aren't going to have big enough hands to use a dagger, right? So I'm like, that's way too wide rimmed of a disc to like
a raider.
And so like we're gonna have to use like a more of like a judge, an EMAC judge or something. Yeah.
It's that special EMAC plastic.
Yeah.
So.
Just give them those mini EMAC truths. Yeah. They got little small hands.
There you go. Yeah.
Well, so awesome.
We're hoping to unveil it for Las Vegas. You can reach out to me at ari@WysockiBombFoundation.org. If you want to be, first in line for us to get some discs to your school. The website, we're furiously trying to be built and get that going so that we can unveil stuff on time. But feel free to email me, reach out. We can get it in the queue, and we just really want to get discs in the kids' hands as quickly as possible. We want to roll this out, and just spread the love of disc golf.
Can't argue with that.
Yeah. Well, of course, we commend you, Rick, on the altruistic notion of just being so much bigger than you, yourself, and your brand, and having it grow into so much more and blossom. I think is maybe even the best phrase for it, to blossom into so much more than just your performance out on the course. And it's really exciting to hear. And not that this is a comparison contest of any kind, but I love the angle in which you're taking. Of course, a lot of us have seen what UPlay is doing, what Edge is doing, what the Paul Macbeth Foundation is doing, and there's a number of others. But to see you with that specific initiative and kind of the target in which you're going after, pardon the pun again, but the way you're going about it, I love it. So it's great, and it's great to see more people, sharing the wealth and the love. So, and speaking of which, congratulations on that. Speaking of which, I don't know if your team captain there, Eric McCabe, if we could maybe slide him in just a little bit more, but EMAC.
Yes.
I would think as team captain, you would have learned by now, if you're going to acquire players, you don't want to take any of the shine off of your star. I mean, you're a one-time world champ, then you bring in a two-time champ. You're doing it backwards, man. Are you spreading the love here? What's happening?
Maybe he's going to go get more world championships.
Now you're playing catch up to him though. This is going to get awkward when you beat him at Worlds next year.
It's going to be very awkward. It's going to be very
Welcome to the show. We got world champion Eric McCabe and EMAC. Your name continues to, of course, be brought up as one of the main drivers and force behind so many great things at Dynamic, along with, of course, the owner, Rusko, and a whole slew of people. But going after this talent, landing the likes of Mondahano, Mason Ford, along with Ricky, Kona, and others, Gavin Rathbun, Matty O over at Westside, and so many good players more recently. What's kind of been the
change?
Yeah, the strategy.
Honestly, because DD, the last year or two, people have kind of looked at it like, oh well, I mean, their team they're
slowing down.
You've got Melton of all people, unfortunately. But
what's your strategy?
And Clemens, how are you doing it?
Oh boy.
Well, wow. Gosh, man. I think it goes back to timing of the EMAC judge coming out this year, and all these players just want to start using it.
Perfect. Makes sense.
Wow, the Ricky laugh as he walks away.
Yeah. Ricky's like, I'm out of here.
I'm out of here. This is garbage. No.
Junk.
Yeah, I think it was just the timing of everything, contracts being up for some of the players and us ready to make a new chapter, with the new headquarters in Emporia, the massive warehouse that we're in now. The headquarters down there is it's huge. I don't know if either of you guys have been in the new one yet or not, but Terry has, that's right. But it's insane. It's just the growth of it, and it was just that time to let's start a new chapter. Let's move. Let's do some big things. Let's make some waves in the sport. The sport's there. It's growing. The DGPT is doing some big things, and it was just the perfect timing. All the stars aligned, so to speak, and to have obviously Ricky and Ari on board has been awesome.
Do you think having Ricky on board is going to help corral additional talent? I mean,
on board of my boat.
Yes, your boat. When you go fishing with him this weekend, and you show him all the great spots. No, is having someone with Ricky's talent, is that going to help you attract other talent, younger, established, whomever?
I think it very well could, but I would also argue that our young talent is probably better than some of the other companies out there. With the Aarons brothers up in Washington State, 14 years old, and he's like 980 rated or something like that, and planning to hit some pro tours this year. So our young talent is very, very talented. And I'm very excited to see what the next few years come with that. But as far as attracting other players, I think it very well could. But at the same time, I'm pretty thrilled with who we've got on board right now. I mean, I don't think you want to have the top of the top, everybody across the board. I think keeping it small, like Emporia, Kansas, is kind of key to keep everybody happy.
What's been the excitement level for the company overall? With these massive acquisitions that have been taking place, what's kind of the vibe and the feel for all of you guys?
It's been awesome. Obviously, I mean, today has been like a whirlwind. Like we were discussing the announcement video, felt like it was yesterday. And obviously Kona's was yesterday. Mm-hmm. And we actually, for both videos at the headquarters, we shut down everybody and had everybody come into our big, fantastic break room and did a watch party with both of them. And it was, I'd seen the videos a handful of times, but watching it there with everybody and, the the applause that happened. I mean, I got chills just sitting there watching it, because it's like, man, that's when it like solidified. That's when it was like, this is real. This is happening. So it was a pretty cool deal.
Ari, did you get a ride on the helicopter or no?
I did. It's so exciting.
All right.
It was my first ride in a helicopter.
All right.
It was
Perfect.
so exciting.
It seems fitting. And EMAC, I mean, you're to date Johnny and I a little bit, at least in disc golf terms, you're from a previous generation of disc golfers where contracts like this were truly a pipe dream. I mean, just absolutely absurd. We never thought we'd see something like this. And here you are helping acquire and bring into the fold these contracts and these players. Is there an ounce of jealousy? Is there an ounce of like, hey, I didn't get mine, even though I was top of the world at one point?
Sure. No. Yeah, I peaked a decade early.
Yeah.
is what I'd say. But no, I wouldn't say jealousy is the right word, because, I'd rather think of it as I helped get it to where it is today. I was one of the early grinders out on the road, literally living out of a car. We didn't have the big vans. There was no van life back then. There wasn't even Airbnb back then.
Yeah.
I mean, when I first started touring, this is going to date me, but when I first started touring, I remember, you want to know how somebody finished in a tournament? You wait until the magazine comes out and you flip to the back page and look for your name. I mean, so,
Boy.
I wouldn't say jealousy at all. I think it's more of appreciation and being thrilled to be involved, and to still actually, we used to joke, we're on the brink of this explosion, and to actually get to witness it is awesome. And obviously I'm doing all right. I'm doing all right for myself. I'm the team director here at Dynamic Discs. I'm a course designer. So, I'm
He's a
still
man with a
putting my mark
boat.
on. Oh, so I have a boat, Terry.
I mean, he's made it.
If you need anything else, though, if you get stretch a little too thin, I could introduce you to an incredible manager, and she could take care of. Yeah, we could. Exciting, of course, I think would be maybe an understatement for this year and what's to come. But dare I ask, aside from the signings, what else should the world expect from Dynamic Disc here in 2022?
You can expect us to host the biggest and best world championships of all time.
Dang. Okay. That's we've seen some pretty incredible worlds. How can you top last year's finish, though? Are you going to create drama?
Well, it's not going to be a thrown-in shot. It's going to be this guy dominating everybody. So there's that side of it. But
real quick, can you remind me who won Worlds last time it was in Emporia? Oh, that's right. I remember someone walking up 18, throwing plastic out to people like it was a parade, like it was Mardi Gras. Shirts were coming out of
Valerie Jenkins is the answer, damn it. Valerie Jenkins was the answer, which is absolutely true. 4-time Valerie Jenkins. I mean, that's a tall task. I mean, Ricky, you'd probably love some kind of, ace, walk-off, throw-in, raptor leg, something or other. But, I mean, seriously,
10-stroke
following up last year's Worlds is a big deal.
It is. From a fan standpoint, that was the most entertaining value that you'll ever get at a World Championships. From a player standpoint, it's the complete opposite. I tell you, James definitely didn't think that. I'm sure of that. Or Paul. It's always one versus the other. If it's a dominating win, it's not as fun for the fans, but it's real fun for the player, and vice versa. So, but I'm on the player side. Last year, luckily, I was in the fan side. This year it's going to be different. I'm going to be on the player side.
All right. So Rick wants the 10 stroke walk in at the end of the week.
Yes.
That's fair enough.
Yes, that's the goal. Yep.
EMAC, we heard Kona talk up the new layout at Jones, and I know that's something that you guys have worked on and are really excited about. Give everyone kind of a quick overview of what we should expect from that.
Sure. So, in the past when we use Jones Gold, it's more of I describe it as a safari course as opposed to like a real disc golf course, because it was kind of designed intertwining through 2 18-hole disc golf courses where, Doug and I sat down and we're like, hey, why not just start from scratch? You have this beautiful blank canvas. Let's just design a sick 18-hole championship level course and just pull everything else out, and let's just focus on this for this year. Because, if the side of the barn in Emporia said Emporia knows disc golf, and we want to continue that trend, so with the help of the city of Emporia, Dynamic Discs obviously pouring a lot of money into this course, it's going to be great. It's going to be big, a lot of great water shots. There's going to be big tee pads, it's just, I can't say enough good things about the course. A lot of people were thinking that the original Jones course was a little too easy for these players, and they were probably right. I mean, there were some shots that there were a lot of players getting some eagle putts on some par fours that may have been a little softer, but they want harder. They're getting harder. And I did have the pleasure of walking it yesterday with Kona, and her fiance Colton was actually here as well to celebrate everything. And they're both excited about it and can't wait to get down and play it. We're very close to having it completely finalized and in the ground. And the best part about it, in my opinion, is we get to debut it at the Dynamic Discs Open. And any tweaks that we need to make to the course, we can do that before the Pro Worlds. So
it's great.
Awesome. Well, it's and other exciting news. I think that maybe it was under the radar just slightly. Did I see somewhere that Doug Bjerkes has his roles have expanded, and in fact, is he officially the president of Dynamic Discs? Is that what I saw? And what does that kind of mean for the world? Is Rusko just gonna, I don't know, sit back and mine Bitcoin for Ricky now, or what's he doing all day? I mean,
for our audio listeners, if you're not watching Ricky, you're missing out.
Let's go out here at 10:30 at night pulling orders at Dynamic Discs retail store.
He's got to pay for Ricky somehow.
He got demoted.
Yeah, okay, he's helping me move all the discs in front of my lap so I can sign them. That's also what he's doing.
But in all seriousness, does that give a little more breathing room? I don't know if he's there or if you can answer for him, but does that give him a little bit more breathing room? Of course, recent addition to the family and all of that. And then Doug stepping up into a more elaborate role and powerful role. Is there anything you want to say to that, Rusko? Or
yeah, he does. He says, "Call him next week, and we'll be on the show next week, and we'll discuss all of this."
Okay. I'll show up. Maybe you can buy me a beverage.
There's nothing better than a Rusko bought beverage.
Yes. Well, now we just got to go to the factory or to the warehouse where they have it on tap, right?
That's right. That's right.
Okay. I know where my eyes were when I got that tour.
Not surprised.
Have you been to the new one, Terry?
Yes, absolutely. It was in its very early stages. Jeremy gave me a tour last year when I was there, and of course, very early stages of the overall facility. But it was awesome. So. Big things there. Guys, we know, I mean, we could honestly, all of us could sit here and talk for the next probably 4 hours, and that's what Smashbox will do.
We will.
But,
you guys don't have to.
But we can cut you loose. Ricky, you literally have mounds of discs that are now being looking for your signature on them. How are you going to give us your finger exercises? You showed us earlier. What are you going to do to keep yourself ready to go to sign all these discs? That's beautiful. What's the finger exercise?
So this is the carpal tunnel exercise. If you guys end up catching yourself signing too many discs, that'll keep your finger fully exercised. So I look like a complete joker, but
it is not that kind of show, Ricky. All right, so
that's what you do.
Let's give a fan a special shout out. Grab someone's order, tell us who it is, and sign it for us on the show.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I like that.
Oh yeah.
Let's go. I need your help. Oh, and to add to that, we got a lot of orders, to say the very least, and we won't be able to get to all of them. So if you did make an order through the website, we're trying to sign as many as I can before I fly out. I might not sleep tonight, but I'm signing as many as I possibly can. Yeah.
Papa.
But yeah,
big trouble.
I'm trying to sign as many as I can, and I appreciate everybody that ordered something. So
who it is.
Oh, Miles Sayer.
You know Miles?
Yeah, I was just talking about him. Miles Sayer. He's from Maine. I know him.
All right.
Awesome.
That's Miles, and signing your stuff right now. Signing your.
Love it. I ordered some Kona. This is awkward. I ordered Kona discs yesterday. Did I order Ricky discs today?
Oh, I appreciate it.
If you draw a Tear Bear on a disc, I mean, Kona said she would. I'd love to see your.
Very nice.
Beautiful.
Pull one more for fun.
Rick, if you pull one more disc off the shelf, we'll buy it from DD and send it out to one of our Smashies tonight.
Just grab one off a shelf behind you.
Yeah, if you grab another random one, we'll just pay you guys for it.
Grab a dagger. We'll grab a dagger since that's my go-to putter. This one is going to Scott Summers.
How many
Summers is getting signed?
while they do that, how many daggers do you have stocked away? Like old ones?
So they sent me a box. Oh, old ones. Yeah. So that's super exciting. I have probably, I don't know, I've probably got a good handful, 5 or 10 of my old school ones that I just kept, the ones that just were my money makers. So I'm not sure if I'm going to break those out or just, completely start fresh with a whole new set. That might be what I do.
That's got to be
hard because I just have so many good memories.
Yeah, you have. I mean, you are a phenomenal putter, but those were the years that everyone thinks about. And so to start with a different dagger like this one, you said it was a little stiffer throughout, and this and that. It's that's got to be a difficult decision whether you go back to what you know or start playing with something new.
Yeah. So Terry, who's this going to?
I don't know. We're gonna find a Smashie tonight. How about I just randomly scroll up, and whoever I stop on for a Smashie, I'm just gonna stop somewhere, and I think let's go with Eric Petro.
Okay.
Oh, right. Cool. He's right here.
Eric Petro, reach out to me, or at least the login Eric Petro. I just scrolled up and reach out to me, Eric, and we're gonna see if we can get that dagger that Ricky just signed on air. We'll see if we can get that over to you. So
awesome.
Thank you so much, Rick.
Do you want to put 2 Eric on there?
Sure.
Do it. Well, that might just be his login though.
No, I think he said something about he does some putter pouch thing is what he was saying on the board earlier.
All right.
So
we'll see. All right. Either way, guys, we can't say enough about
Ari, the most phenomenal
woo in the world. Woohoo! All right. No, seriously.
Some Ric Flair woo shirts made for the tour, so people will buy them.
Oh boy.
We can do it. We can do it.
I love it. Seriously, to all of you, thank you guys. Thank you for lending Ricky to us on this epic day. We know that it's been crazy. We're going to continue to talk about all the other exciting acquisitions you guys have had, including Kona and everything else that we saw with the press conference with her and the announcement yesterday. Thank you guys so much for all taking the time, and it works out so perfectly. It's a Tuesday, and we've got the biggest news in the sport and one of our biggest stars. So thank you so much, Rick. Ari, thank you as well. And EMAC, we love you along with the entire DD family. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you for having us. Mad respect, guys. And I'm so glad I could be on the show and share my life story with you guys.
Well, we appreciate it.
You always do. We get more and more every year, so it's great.
Yes, exactly.
All right, guys. Have a good night. Good luck signing.
Have fun with that.
Bye.
See ya.
Bye. Oh, Ricky, EMAC, and Ari. What a trio.
What a trio, yeah. Good times for sure. Thank you. Thank you so much. Clearly a very, very busy day over there at Dynamic Disc.
I can't even imagine how busy it is.
And they weren't kidding when they said that they were running around crazy just trying to get Ricky to get all those discs signed. We were talking a little bit about
I heard a few
before the
thousand
show.
is what they had.
Absolutely bonkers. And thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Eric, reach out to me. I see that I can put it in there now. Send me a message, and we'll make that happen for you. And again, thank you to DD. Thank you to Rick for that super fun. I mean, that's all you got to do. You just pressure him into a giveaway.
Yeah.
Like, oh, yeah, here we go.
Yeah, we can,
This is not officially sponsored by Dynamic. Okay,
it might as well be tonight.
The giveaway is.
Tonight it is. That's great.
All right, let's, as I just mentioned.
There's other news.
Yeah, believe it or not.
Jeez.
But within the DD family, some exciting news we've seen released in the last few days, namely the other person that was in the press conference today. Of course, we're talking about Kona Panis, and big shout out to her. What an incredible acquisition again, but also, again, they're going with the transparency and going with the idea of making these contracts public, which I'll say it 100 times. I don't feel like I deserve to know, or even should I know, but if they want to share it, then I'll listen.
Of course. And I think we've had this discussion before. It clearly helps the players when those things are discussed publicly, and not nearly as much the manufacturers, but I think it does help push a legitimacy to our sport when those numbers are thrown around. And if we see more of it, that is only going to help. If we don't, I'm happy with what we've seen so far. It really is starting to set a bar for players, for good or for better or worse. We see Kona matching the Kristen Tatar. We don't know Paige's official deal, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say that Paige is doing just fine for herself. I can't wait to see what some of the other contracts that are going to come up, because speaking of FPO players, Katrina Allen stepped away from Prodigy, and Haley King is stepping away from Discraft. So if we're lucky enough to get those numbers for these other women, what a time to be in the sport.
Yeah, it's very exciting, and just to really put it out there, some of these are certainly coming out of left field. There are a lot of people talking about, well, when we kind of shockingly saw Katrina Allen withdraw or part ways with Prodigy, that took most of the world by surprise. Unless you are in a very, very small inner circle, that was a complete shock to you. I feel like it was the same of Haley King. I feel like it certainly was the same of Kona Panis, especially considering her ties, and she was very open about it, that her father works at Innova, her mother works for Hero, her brother works at those companies as well. And so for someone like her and her whole family to work at that establishment, but to still step aside and go with a competitor, that probably speaks to contracts, that speaks to vibe, feels, demands, all of those things.
That's exactly what I was going to ask you. I was going to put you in the hot seat and say, does this speak something of Innova? Whether it be their outlook on players and contracts, their outlook on the sport, or what? Because we see the number one player in our sport, Ricky Wysocki, left Innova. Kona Panis, one of the this past year, I think she was the 5th ranked player in the world. And I mean, these numbers are all a little, for the FPO, a little squishy because the Europeans can't come over, and so there's this and that. But this year, this is what Kona had placed. She left Innova, and as you said, under these circumstances with her entire family. So what does this say about Innova?
Well, I think, to borrow some phrasing from Kona, I think she felt like, or she said in so many words, she didn't feel like she was getting the value that she feels like she's worth representing Innova. And she spoke of culture and vibe, and she felt that more so with the crew over at Dynamic Disc. Now, it's easy to assume that that's a negative thing, and in some cases it probably is. It doesn't have to be, though. No. There is clearly a vibe that you get from the players, we'll say, at Discmania. There's a vibe that you probably get from players at MVP, Legacy, Innova, Discraft. I was going to say without being too stereotypical, but we are. If you're somewhat pigeonholing, there is somewhat of a consistent vibe that you may get from any given company and its players, although they're all individuals. I get it. And she just may have said, hey, I think my vibe and my comfort level more aligns with what I'm finding at Dynamic as opposed to what she was finding at Innova. So I will say, I do hate that it's always assumed that when somebody leaves, usually the first thing that is said is, well, that company is not willing to pay enough. That could be true.
Which I think is funny, because I had this the same thing said 2 weeks ago, that things were being said about Dynamic that way. When Ricky left Latitude, when Paige left DD, people were saying, well, how come DD isn't paying up? Why are they so cheap and this and that? When clearly that's not necessarily the case, as we see this week with their huge amount of signings. I don't necessarily think that's the case.
Well, my real takeaway is there's the sponsor may potentially not be paying enough for what the player thinks. The player, conversely, may be thinking they're worth way more than what the sponsor thinks. So there's this two sides to that same coin, right? As to expectations. And then, just like I may have mentioned it last week, there's a lot of times when, and this came up with Drew Gibson in some of his tweets, is it was challenged and said, hey, do contracts mean nothing? We're seeing these players, just get out of their contract. And my rebuttal to that is, yeah, I'm sure that's happening where players are maybe in a negative way are trying to get out of their contract. Just keep in mind, again, it takes two to tango, and maybe there's a sponsor that is not fulfilling their end. They're in a breach of contract. And I just feel like, clearly, it's the internet and it's speculation, but 99% of the time, most of the world doesn't really know what's going on behind those doors. And so then everybody just jumps on whether it's the worst case scenario or you're immediately taking a side of, oh, this company sucks or this company's great, and it's the player or it's the company. You probably don't know.
And this is difficult, but what's a player worth? That's a difficult choice because everybody can be measured on different things. What Kona Panis is worth to Innova might be way different than what she's worth to Dynamic Discs. I'm sure Innova has all the numbers. They look at whatever, the Mako 3 sales or whatever. I'm just going to use Kona as an example. All that stuff. And maybe they look at it and say, well, we feel you bring in $100,000 worth of product. And if a player is asking for 125, should a manufacturer just eat what they feel is $25,000 a year? I mean, is that a good business decision? We have to look at what, we want these manufacturers to be around. We don't want them to make bad business decisions. But maybe Kona goes to DD and they look at it and they say, well, we feel that you're worth this much more because we're a different company. We know let me put it this way. For Innova, destroyers are going to sell. I don't care whose name is on it. I don't care if Terry Miller's name is on the destroyer. Reach out if you're interested. Those are going to sell. So whether they've got Ricky or Calvin or Paul or Eagle or Germ or whomever's name is on that destroyer, it's selling. So that's hard to decide what it's worth. But Kona could bring in a huge amount of sales for DD that she wasn't bringing in for Innova. Just based on, as we see, when players move, they sell discs because there's an excitement. So it's very difficult to say that, as we see, like someone like Innova that has lost a few players this season, that they're not paying up or that they're old school. They have a different mentality. We don't know that. We don't know any of that. Next year, Innova could come out and say, hey, Calvin, we're going to give you $2 million a year. And everyone's going to be like, oh my gosh, Innova is shelling out huge money and this and that. There's so much going on behind the scenes that we are not privy to. And the numbers are the number one thing, that ROI that I talk about. We don't know it. And yeah. I bet you they do.
Well, and largely they're, like you just really said, they're relative. They're relative to the company. Clearly someone's worth at one company. And that speaks a little bit to what I was mentioning with Ricky. Ricky would fall in line with a really, really big, powerful team that has been very stocked up over the last couple of years at Discraft, including his number one adversary in Macbeth.
Wouldn't that have been crazy?
It would and it wouldn't.
I only say that because of the amount of money. If Ricky was going to get something similar to what he got at DD, having $2 million players on your roster, that to me, like, I don't care so much about the rivalry between the two of them. I know there's whatever, but I'm thinking just the financials of that particular team would have been ridiculous.
Yeah, it's it is it's pretty incredible to think about, and I appreciate Ari and Ricky and everyone else for, kind of that frank conversation, because I think even just the information that Ricky was in conversation with Discraft, I think says something a lot about where our sport is, maybe where they are, and everything else. I think that just at face value was very enlightening.
I think it says that Discraft's got extra money, so if you're one of their players, start asking for more.
So if
remember that Ricky money you didn't have to spend? Let me see it.
Again, want to say a big shout out to the acquisitions that have been made over there. And I'll say this of any of the teams, of course, but seeing Dynamic Disc stock up a little bit heavier. As I mentioned, Gavin Rathbun, just to recap, Gavin, Mason Ford, Valerie Mondahano, Kona, and of course, Ricky. So
do they
go ahead.
Do they have the strongest right now women's field or sponsorship? I mean, you think Holland Hanley, right? Macy Walker.
Valadiaz,
yep. Macy Walker Valadiaz, thank you. Kona, Paige Shue, world champion Paige Shue.
Uh-huh.
She's playing a little less right now.
I think we don't know where Haley's going.
Not yet.
The world, for the most part,
or is it still Innova with Henna and
Evelina, or Discraft obviously as Missy Gannon
and Missy Gannon
and Paige Pierce,
Paige and Missy Gannon. Sorry.
I mean, I think everyone could argue about one or another, one way, however you want to look at it.
I love that it's all spread out. Right, it's seemingly spread out right now.
Yeah, and that is, I will say, it's to be determined where two of our top players on the planet are still going to land. In Haley King and Katrina Allen. So whatever team either of them
are we sponsoring
join,
one of them?
Are certainly going to considerably beef up that team. So I think you'll see some of that news hopefully come about in a little while. But again, congratulations.
Ari, if you're still listening, you can just close down your browser,
or you can keep listening.
You can keep listening to our podcast.
All right. And I was just going to try and recap. I know it was mentioned earlier that Missy Gannon had in fact re-signed with Discraft. I didn't know if that was necessarily. I didn't know how much that was or wasn't on the table as an issue, but she has re-signed with Discraft. Congratulations to her. We also saw a 2-year extension by our Rookie of the Year in Ella Hansen over at Discmania. So congratulations.
And promoted to the touring team.
So congratulations to her as well. I want to scroll up and see if there was any other signings that I'm not. We still have yet to hear where Cam Colglazer, and damn it, I'm going to find out this weekend. I'll be in Alabama filming him. Mm-hmm. So whether he likes it or not, I'm going to be all up in his bag and figure out where he's going and what he's throwing.
Infinite. If I take a guess.
Okay, you take your guesses.
I'm going to I'd like to throw guesses out.
So we need to find out where he's going yet as well. And then we haven't heard of I haven't. Let me rephrase that. I haven't heard of any other places where Nico potentially has landed in terms of a major disc manufacturer.
I heard one, but I don't know if they're pulling my leg or not, so we'll see.
All right. I have not heard of anything. Not to say it's not done or a done deal or in the works. I just personally haven't heard of anything.
I would like to report on a sponsorship loss. Smashbox is no longer the official podcast of the PDGA.
Ah, damn it!
Our
self-proclaimed title.
Yes, because the
PDGA,
by default, the PDGA Radio is coming back. So they had their first episode today, and now that they have a podcast, we cannot claim to be the official podcast of the PDGA unofficially,
whether they liked it
or not, with that tagline. So, a lot of fun. Jen Allen actually is on that podcast.
Yes.
So she's taking over the FPO side of the podcast. They're not focusing so much on player information. It's a little bit more PDGA stuff, is what I understand. I listened to about 10 minutes of it, and then I had to come down here and get prepped for the podcast.
Yeah. I think now if I go back to actually me keeping secrets, holy cow! Now the cat's out of the bag. So. I believe it was back around.
Jen Allen, not Cat.
Yeah, that different Allen. She had told me back at the Phoenix Ladies Open that was a role that she was taking on and she was going to try out. And she said she was nervous. I assured her that she would be just fine. And she felt, though, like she was really stepping out of her comfort zone. And so it's going to be really exciting to see and hear how that continues to pan out. One thing that I noticed yesterday, because, of course, what am I doing besides editing World's Putting Competition at 3 a.m. last night? But one of the things that popped up on YouTube was that the South Florida Open, which was filmed by Gatekeeper, had Jen Allen and Grant Zellner doing the commentary on what was Gatekeeper footage or shot by Gatekeeper. But then it was branded with PDGA stuff and then put on PDGA's YouTube channel. So that just begs the question, for lack of a better term, what's going on? I'm curious to know if that's a a business model from the PDGA that's going to move forward.
I would be willing to bet the PDGA is going to start looking into having a little bit more social media presence and YouTube presence and that type of thing.
It's
back in the day, I said that the PDGA should have every NT on their YouTube, and that didn't happen. It went to whatever company was covering it, but I always felt that a copy of every national tour round that was recorded should have gone on the PDGA's page in some capacity for not only for historic purposes, archival purposes, or at least they should have a copy of it or something. But that never came to fruition, and I know that would have been a very difficult task. But whatever.
Either way, I guess I'm going to research and find out. I just love to know more about how that's all transpiring or what's going down. But the coverage is out there, is I guess one of the big takeaways there. And then, as I just alluded to a moment ago, yes, this weekend I will personally be heading down to Fairhope, Alabama, which is just southeast of Mobile, Alabama, a place Johnny and I frequented back in our wild spring break days of 1998, 1999, playing in the City of Mobile Championships, where we were first introduced to Chickasaw Bogue, and finger popping. Those are all things that came about during our wild spring breaks from college. And so I'll be heading down there. Super excited to there's a solid stacked women's field that's going to be playing, and then also a pretty solid MPO field. It is a C tier, but it's all worked out that you're going to get some additional coverage, or not additional, you're going to get coverage of the event, and hopefully we're going to have both MPO and FPO. You'll see more and hear more of those details as they unfold, but super excited to be down in Alabama this weekend to cover that.
I don't even feel like I need to do this anymore, but a little PDGA news. The PDGA announced their Player of the Year awards a couple days ago, one of which we just had on our show. Ricky Wysocki got, I believe, the MPO Player of the Year award. Katrina Allen with the FPO Player of the Year award.
6 time? Does that sound right?
I think it is 6 time.
I'm going to give her credit for 6.
I guess that's not too bad. 6-time Player of the Year.
Am I right?
I believe
4.
I believe it is.
Yeah, and is now a 6 time.
Yeah, I believe it is 6 time.
6 time?
6 time.
Congrats.
Gannon Burr and Ella Hansen, both with the Rookie of the Year awards. So just squeaking out Juliana Korver. No, so those two picked up the Rookie of the Year. So congratulations to all of those players. I think Gannon Burr is going to talk about his sponsorship coming up in the next few days, is what I heard.
Yeah, he said big sponsorship announcement tomorrow, I believe.
Oh, tomorrow. All right.
Is what I saw him post on the socials, on the Facebooks and such. Whatever that might mean. I don't think it's going to have anything to do with a manufacturing sponsor. So. But it may have something to do with a retail sponsor or some other aid or something else. It could be anything. Heck, could be Nike. What do we know?
Could be.
I don't know if there were any other huge, huge sponsorship news. I know what it certainly threw off a lot of people is that we saw Dynamic post and say, hey, we're adding a multiple time Elite Series winner. And then like a day or two later, there was the departure announcement that was from Katrina. So a lot of people made that assumption. And I think it really threw off the the scent for a lot of people. I think Kona's consideration for the multi Elite Series event winning was her Waco win, along with the fact that she had won the Disc Golf Pro Tour All-Stars weekend. But that definitely threw a lot of people off. And quite honestly, again, I don't think a lot of people had pegged Kona for leaving Innova at the time.
No.
So, yeah, it was interesting to watch that all unfold, and the speculation running rampant. And usually when I start offering up wagers online, a lot of people then kind of retreat a little, which is unfortunate because I feel like I could get rich if I just started betting the right people.
You could definitely make a few bucks, Terry Miller.
Yeah.
You know what I did see a few days ago on the Reddits was someone that was very sad about losing a disc. They said, "Hey, my disc had shattered," and I looked at it, and it was a red Comet Z Comet with an old Lifetime Disc Sports logo on it, and I almost said, well, I have a few of those, not in red. I think I have a couple of yellow ones, and from Lifetime, and it just made me think like, oh, that's a few years old. That's definitely a few years old.
Yeah, and I think they said it wasn't even that cold out. So yes, a very special run that I had done up with Discraft many years ago in my Comet era, which I still throw to this day, actually. So
Comets are the best.
Yeah, it was crazy to see that old disc and the fact that it had shattered in a not cold weather climate.
Yeah. And it just not just in half, like it shattered.
Yeah,
like it
exactly.
took many parts.
Big shout out. It's still that time here in Wisconsin, but also out in Arizona. Happy birthday, Anthony Barella, celebrating a birthday today. I wanted to get that in there. It was nothing more than just pure coincidence that I had put together the putting contest from one of the putting competitions, one of the groups from the putting competition at the Worlds this year, and then I was going to release it today regardless, and then I just happened to see that it was AB's birthday, and he was in the video. So go out, give that a watch, and you'll see another one with a couple other great guys probably in the next day or two. All right, we ready to close up the regular show here, Johnny?
I believe we are. We can go into an after
with all
show
the other major news and information that was taking place. I think we've covered pretty much everything. All the official news. So we're going to close it out. It's been an incredible night here. Don't go anywhere. We're going to have an after show where we'll talk about things that are either disc golf or maybe non-disc golf related. We're here in the new season of 2022, so plenty of things going on. But this will conclude our regular show. We'll stand down for just a moment or two, get the show reset, and get things all split off, and then we'll be ready to go with you. All you got to do is stay right here if you're watching it live. And also in the live chat room, especially on YouTube, if you chat or send us a question or have a topic or something you want us to address that's disc golf related or otherwise, we are more than happy to address it or at least pawn off the thought as if it was a unique or original thought of our own, and we run with it from there. But either way, we'll do our best to address it in the chat. Right here live on the show. So we're going to close it out. This has been Smashbox TV's podcast 384. Thank you again to Ari, Ricky, Eric McCabe, the entire staff and crew over at Dynamic Disc. Big things for our sport as we continue to move forward. No better way to kick off 2022 than with the news and information and the insight that they gave us. Stick around. We'll see you guys in the after show when you step inside the Smashbox.
Thank you to our $2 and above patrons. Your name is listed below in the credits. If you are interested in being listed as a producer in the Smashbox TV credits and supporting this and other fine podcasts, please visit patreon.com/SmashboxTV.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Smashbox TV's podcast 384's After Show. Here we are. It's the new year, our first after show of 2022. I'm not going to lie. It was a lot of fun in our regular show, which just wrapped up a few moments ago. Anytime we have Rick, we know we're pretty much getting the uncensored truth.
I was a little worried Ari was going to hold him back because normally Rick gives us some really good stuff, but having her in a different location probably helped out a little bit.
Yeah, he deferred a couple times, but and it sounds like all good things are in the works, and really exciting to hear what's in store. And Dynamic clearly is doing some big things and has signed some pretty serious players here in the last few weeks, or in the last few days specifically. And the shifts just continue to happen in the offseason, and clearly we're now just a matter of a month or so before we're no longer calling it the offseason. So players have to get out, make sure they're fully acclimated to their new disc, their new lineup, whatever the case might be. And I think that there's probably this form of excitement in that a lot of people will say, well, is that a fair excuse that you can use and say, hey, I'm not fully learned my bag, I'm not completely dialed in? And I think a lot of players will answer that and say, I don't want that excuse, and I'm going to go work hard because I want to hit the ground running and be ready to go. So that's where it feels like a lot of our players are at, and really looking forward to what's in store for this year.
It's going to be really hard to top last year. As a disc golf season, we saw some really great majors, Worlds ending the way it did, Paul winning USDGC the way he did, the Tour Championship with Nathan Queen. I think last year, I'll please, I hope I eat my words, but I don't know if we're going to top last year for the excitement level. But we also thought that this offseason was going to be a little slower than what we've seen, and we see players kind of dropping out of contracts left and right, and it's definitely an interesting offseason. Yeah, next year, or this year, not even next year. Gosh, this year it's gonna be fun, Terry.
It hopefully will, and looking forward to, as I was mentioning, I'll be in Alabama this weekend. Next weekend, if I'm really thinking ahead, there may be even some coverage coming out of both Arizona and Florida that is being worked on. So, going to roll right into it, and I'm going to continue to catch up on old 2021 footage.
Are you going to be able to get all your footage from 2021 out before 2022 season starts?
No, because I literally have like 40 more rounds of golf that's not released, and I'll be releasing 2022 stuff within a week.
Much like Ricky, what are you doing? Why are you here and not doing your work?
Exactly, because I'm usually just lounging around doing nothing else. All right, so as always, in the after show, we very much require you and demand of you to put anything you want in the YouTube chat. That is your best guaranteed way for us to see what you're asking or what you're talking about, and then from there, hopefully we can answer or address it. Taking a quick side note, our Green Bay Packers, no, you don't own any stock in Green Bay Packers, do you?
I would not buy. I would not buy. No.
Okay. Well, anyway, the Green Bay Packers this last weekend. If you're Wisconsin and or Midwest based, maybe you care, maybe you don't, maybe you hate it. I don't know. I know Doug Bjerkes doesn't love it.
Doug Bjerkes, a noted Vikings fan.
Yeah, how's that working out for you, Doug? But they clinched the number one seed through the playoffs, or whatever. Number one seed this weekend, assuming they make it. Yes, and of course, I think, holy cow, has it been since last week? It feels like forever ago that John Madden has passed away, along with Betty White. So pretty crazy. JVD, are you a Badgers guy? How about Johnny Davis?
I don't know who Johnny Davis is.
So that's a no.
So that's a no. I think was he the running back? I think he was the running back, actually, for the Badgers football team. I'm not a huge Badger football. I'm not a huge college football fan in general. Badgers, I root for them when I see them on TV If I happen to sit down and the game is on, I'll watch them and root for them. But I honestly couldn't tell you one player. I could not name one player on the team. I think you mentioned it, and that did ring a bell in my head as far as being probably the running back for that team. But sorry, not so much a college guy in general. For most sports, March Madness is fun. No, I won't. I'll say maybe I'll watch the NCAA championship football game, but I probably won't. I'm not going to lie.
All right. Joe PG, I believe, down from the Florida area, says F the Packers. So apparently he's not a big fan. That's fine. I'm all good with that. All right. Thoughts on Nico leaving Westside is one of the questions that were thrown out there. And unfortunately, we don't have access to Eric McCabe. He's probably freshening up Ricky Sharpie right now. But
how many Sharpies is he going to go through tonight? Because after
probably at least a half dozen.
After so many, they start to get dulled. Not that they're running out of ink, but they're dulled down and they don't sign nearly as well.
Yeah. So, I believe that contract, if I recall, that was originally extended last year, and then come 2022, it was dissolved or nullified or whatever you want to call it. They parted ways. I can't speak to. I haven't had a conversation with Nico, and I don't know if either party would necessarily share it. I don't know if that was driven by one party or another, or if that was initiated by one party or another. I don't know if Nico said he wanted to go find different opportunities, or if that was Westside that said, hey, we're looking for different opportunities. I can't speak to that, so I'm not really sure. But it will be interesting to see if Nico lands on another major manufacturer. And I say that because I think we talked about it last week. We've seen him with lots of the major manufacturers at one point or another in his career. Clearly, that's not to say you can't go back to any of them, as we've seen now a number of times with players that they can return back to a sponsor they've had before. But I don't know if that's going to be the case. I don't know if that's going to be the case or not. I did see someone make a comment. Maybe it was even within our chat earlier today, or maybe it was on Facebook, something about Ricky going back to his roots in reference to the dynamic/latitude. I'm going to say that I feel that would be an inaccurate statement. Now, Ricky clearly successful with the Latitude plastic and the Trilogy-based plastic. But those weren't his roots.
He started at Innova, then went to Prodigy, then Lat, then back to Innova, and now to DD.
Yeah, so I would not consider, now, good for him, but I wouldn't consider Dynamic or Latitude then his roots, so to speak. But
those are his most successful years, but not.
But it also, there's probably a little, maybe there's a little, not recency bias, but maybe you just came into the sport since Ricky was there, and therefore you consider those his roots. But nonetheless. All right, I'm going to continue to read down. Terry hoards discs. He doesn't sell them. The question was asked where I would potentially sell one of those Elite Z Comets, which were a very, very limited run from many years ago. And I think I ordered 50 with my logo. It might have been 100. I'd have to look. And I have them. Some of them.
Why
still
do you want
stashed.
them?
I did sell a lot of them.
Yeah, you sold a lot of them. I have
those.
Few
I
of
did
them.
sell, but I don't know where those are. I mean, they're in a bin somewhere. I just don't know how many I have. Yes, you're right though. I typically do just continue to hoard and hold on to discs. All right, some Umbrella action on Maricopa this year. Yes, Larry. The last couple of years. I'm not going to say I'm good luck for him, but the last 2 years, Adam Hammis won the Shelley Sharp, and then 2 weeks later won Maricopa. He did that 2 years ago. Last year, won the Shelley Sharp, then went on to win Maricopa. I've filmed all 4 of those wins. This year, I'm going to the Shelley Sharp, and then I'm going to Maricopa. Adam Hammis should be paying me.
Really? That's what you're going with? He should be paying you.
Maybe not. I'm not going to put his win on the internet. I won't let the world see it.
I do want to give a quick shout out is not the term I want to use here. I do want to make a quick note for some of our Patreon supporters. You should be receiving or should have received a sweatshirt for the clothing level. If you are part of that, it's a really nice black Smashbox sweatshirt hoodie with a hood. It's not a zipper hoodie.
Oh, geez, not this again.
And there were, I did get note from at least one person that said that there was some money due on delivery. So there might have been a mix-up in some of the...
Wow, that's how we run our business. We're doing well.
Yeah. So there might have been a little mix-up in shipping. If that's the case, and it bothers you and you want to be made whole for some reason, please reach out to us and we'll get you worked out.
You shouldn't have to pay additional.
Correct.
Yes.
It was it was literally just a few dollars, but yeah. But if that's the case and you need to talk to one of us, please by all means reach out and we'll make sure that that gets taken care of, because you're right. It was clearly just a mistake. We've never anyone that's received anything in the past has known that that's not how things normally go. I'm hoping it was just a mix up with just one person, but because I got mine without any postage too. But so we'll see.
Right. I'm going to continue to read down the list of things that have been submitted here. Shift 1 is talking about the manufacturers don't need to make courses. You can literally go to your town's parks department and get them to make a course. The town gets their parks used. Yeah, that in some cases is absolutely true. In other cases, you could run into a lot of obstacles, and I'm a guy that's designed or developed 30 plus courses. Yeah, there's a wide mix. It's easier now today than it was 20 years ago. Let me promise you that. But it's not as easy as just saying, "Hey, Parks Department, I want this. Please put it in." But it definitely the hurdles and obstacles of getting courses in the ground now, I feel like, are certainly less because disc golf is just growing in popularity.
I think some of the discussion was like the money that the manufacturers are putting in towards players, some of that maybe could go towards course development and such like that. And one of the things I would say is, yes, it would help to have the power of a relatively large manufacturing facility in your town behind you. I don't necessarily think that manufacturers need to be reaching out to maybe outside of their town. So Discraft located out of Michigan, Wixom technically, Wixom, Michigan. They don't need to be going to Ohio,
Los Angeles to put a course in.
Yeah, to put those courses in. If they did, that's great, but I don't think that's the case. If you happen to be building a course in a city where a manufacturer is located, go ahead and reach out. They can probably help. They might have some connections with some local people in the town board, but I don't necessarily think that they need to be the ones that need to spur the course growth. I think that's
I
lot
guess
of local
is some of the logic
might know that better.
Analogy would be, should Brunswick be at town proposing that new bowling alleys are getting built, or should Wilson or whomever, Spalding, be out putting in more basketball courts? It's a great gesture,
and they can sponsor it,
and they can sponsor it to some degree. The question is, should they be going out and actively seeking to make that happen? I don't know if that's as necessary as it maybe once was, considering the growth of disc golf, but I see what you're saying. Michael says, I live near Dayton, Ohio. Tons of courses. Yes, you guys do have a lot of good courses. Great pro shop in that area, and a lot of good events from what I've seen. Consumers going to feel these big contracts in 2022 in bag and disc prices.
Yes.
That's certainly a piece of the conversation here, is how does Ricky's $1 million a year get paid? How does Kona's six-figure contract get paid? Are you saying directly through disc pricing we're going to see this?
Yes. I think we're going to see a slight raise in the prices of like the Tour Series discs.
Okay, so what about stock discs, regular discs, or Signature Series discs that are
Tour Series, Signature Series? I kind of bunch those a little. I know they're different.
There's a huge difference.
I know they're different, but I think that those we'll call it custom run discs. I think you're going to see probably maybe a $1 or $2 raise in some of those prices, and it can be equated to logistics. You can equate it to player signings. You can equate it to a lot of different things. But I do feel that the prices are probably going to be going up.
So then the follow-up to that is?
I don't know about stock prices, but
The follow-up question could be, and maybe where he was going with is it really the manufacturers that are paying those salaries then?
yes. That's don't take this the wrong way, but that's a really dumb thing to say, because in general, are you saying, does Dynamic Disc pay their EMAC salary? No, I do, because I buy their products. Like, in general, I just think that's silly. For every business, the consumer is always the one putting the money in, whether you're a private consumer or it's a B2B or something like that goes into the manufacturer or the business, and the business pays their employees. You can kind of treat Ricky, I know he's not officially on the books, as a employee type person, a sponsored player. So yes, I mean, the people are always paying it, but Dynamic Discs is paying it. Like, we're not. It all comes down to the consumer. Honestly, it always rolls downhill.
Well, but you just said, sticking with that thought though, you said that you're going to see a price increase.
I believe so.
If we see a price increase, then one could say it feels like it's directly attributed to the consumers are paying them.
You could look at it that way.
It's just a philosophy.
And again, I said you can hide that in a lot of ways. Someone could see, if, let's say, custom discs went up $1 this year, are people going to point to it and be like, that's Ricky's fault? Or can Dynamic Discs come out and say, no, it has to do with the pandemic, it has to do with shipping, it has to do with, we're paying more for employees, we're paying more for truck drivers, we're paying more for shipping into, we had to airlift, we couldn't do some by boat this year. Like, there's a lot of places that a company can quote unquote hide costs, and I'm not, it's not nefarious when I say it that way, but you can justify a lot of reasons. Bigger player sponsorships are just a slice of that pie. I would not, there's no way you could directly relate it to a specific slice, like all the players, the Paul sponsorship, the Ricky, the Kona, the Cat, the Haley, the Page, those big ones. You can't directly relate it to that. It's a part of it, and it's something that everybody's cheering for. Like,
well, and it may hit a
like,
crossroad at some point. Is the real question.
You're right. And that's a supply and demand thing. If the discs go up to $35 for a special tour series custom stamp, maybe people will stop paying that amount. Maybe they won't. I don't know.
Yeah.
What is the right price for a disc? It's whatever the customer will pay.
Yeah, it's we'll see if there's any direct increases, and then, like you said, if people will attribute it to that or not. Because as you've said, there's been plenty of price hikes. I feel like from almost every manufacturer, I've gotten a notification of some kind or multiple notifications that have said, hey, due to all these reasons, we're raising the price of discs. Now, clearly, I don't think they would send out an email that says, hey, we just signed so-and-so. We're going to raise all the price, we're going to raise the price of discs. So I totally agree with you in that it's overall, it's going to be a cost to that company. Mm-hmm. The question is, how is it really felt internally or externally?
We can hope that they're selling so many discs that the price increase is negligible. 50 cents to wholesalers, maybe.
Yeah.
And then do the wholesalers pass, if it's a small like that, do the wholesalers pass that on to your players or to the people who are buying from the wholesalers? Or is it, is it a buck and then that gets passed on? I mean, you can hope that they're selling so much more plastic that they don't have to do that it's minimal, but prices are going to go up everywhere. We're running into, we're running into some inflation in general in this country right now. So
I think that's a bigger. Yeah, I was going to say that's a much more bigger, more generic conversation piece that could be had. Mm-hmm. And we've seen discs a basic disc has remained in I feel like a very, very manageable price point.
What is a standard Innova DX disc go for these days? Can you even get them?
I'm sure you can. You're probably going to pay. This is just a guess. I don't know what every retailer is doing. You're probably going to pay anywhere between maybe as low as $7.95 or $7.99, probably on the low end, to $9.99, somewhere between $8 and $10. Probably
in the late '90s, we were paying $8.
Yeah, $7
to $8
yep.
for and if you're telling me now you're paying $8 to $9, I can't argue with that.
I completely agree.
And granted, those discs are not nearly in demand as what they were. People are buying
to me is almost besides the point. But yes, you're right.
The Pro line, the more durable plastic lines.
Sure. But if you want to compare apples to apples from yesterdecade to today, that's where I say I feel like the increase has been negligible, overall, which either tells you that things are somehow getting cheaper, manufacturers getting cheaper, or there's been considerable margins that has somewhat shortened throughout these last few years. Carney, real quick, Carney, where are you paying $11 for a DX disc? You need to be shopping over at the Disc Golf Guy. Yeah, I'll sell you some of that plastic for cheaper than $11.
Wes Warren, I just get a kick out of it when he says candy plastic was $15 in 2000/9. Just the term candy plastic hasn't been used since 2000. Everyone's calling it Champion and things like that, but I know exactly what you're talking about. The
very original,
the very
CE stuff,
often
referred to as candy.
Candy plastic. That's funny. I hadn't heard that term in many years.
Yes. Yes, I do have a few of the original Champion Edition discs where you flip it over on the back and it has a $14 price tag. And I've told this story many times, maybe not here recently, but when Johnny and I and a few others, we were at the Lexington Open, either 1 or 2. I don't remember which year, which one it was, probably the Lexington Open 2, back around 99, 2000. And I remember a box of disc were sitting on the table. This is March or April, probably April of 2000. And there's a box of discs sitting on the table. And you went up to them, and whether they're Valkyries or Leopards, or probably Valkyries or Leopards, maybe T-Birds, I don't recall. And I picked them up, and I looked on the back, and it said $14. And I all but choked and said, "You're crazy. No one's going to pay you $14 for a Frisbee. Like, you're crazy." So
I remember getting
that was early Champion/CE plastic.
I literally remember that tournament because I played with Dave Greenwell.
Yes, as did I.
And I remember being more excited about, at the time, the Discraft MRX and the MRV, which were new discs at the time, and them being in this new plastic as well. It wasn't, so it was, they're what I think is now referred to as X, but that was exciting to me because I was much more into the Discraft mid-ranges than the Innova drivers, even though almost all my drivers still to this day are Innova drivers. So, yeah, and people are saying today I just bought a disc for $30. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Again, we're in a totally different world. I will gladly sell you a 4-time Claw Buzz for $250 if you want one.
I got
whatever the case might be. There's no doubt that we're in a totally different world. I certainly know that. But yes, at the time, the idea of paying $14 for a disc was absurd, and I remember laughing, thinking, "No way, you are crazy. I'm not paying you $14 for a disc." And that same box of discs probably right now would be worth,
thousands.
Probably over $1,000.
Here's a question.
Great. Is it dumb?
I don't think so.
All right, somebody get out the tick board for the year.
It has. Geez. It's kind of 2 parts, and they're related. So one of the big hubbubs this particular weekend was there was a Prodigy / I think it's Upper Park issue. A Prodigy bag is coming out, and it looks very similar to an Upper Park bag.
No, Pound bag.
Or Pound bag. Thank you, Pound bag. And then we see Dynamic Disc have their Orbit plastic, which looks a lot like the Innova Halo plastic.
Sure. It's a style of producing Frisbees. Yep.
They're similar in that, one company is taking from another company the general idea because they see good sales. Do you see any issues with either of these? And I'm going to preface that by saying, let's just say the Prodigy and Pound thing is that they are they are not Pound bags, even if they're almost a direct ripoff of them or copy of them. Is there an issue with that? Do you think?
I think these, in my opinion, these are two pretty different scenarios. I understand the draw and the similarity. The one I'll speak to first that I would say I know a little bit more about, I think, would be just the fact of the orbit plastic and how that clearly is a technique of how they inject and when and where and how they inject plastic, the pellets and whatnot to make the plastic the way that they do.
I was told by somebody that the Innova Halo plastic it's actually a different type of blend of plastic as opposed to the Orbit, which looks more just as a different color of plastic. And I don't know enough about the process for either of them to know if that's true or not.
Either way,
it's
obviously it's a style, just as if you've seen a burst or a glow or whatever. There's the various styles in which the disc can be made. And then you can talk about, sidetracking that a little bit to the molding. And a lot of people thought that, MVP, when they came along, they were ripping off the overmold process by Innova, which is inaccurate. There were other companies that had done overmolding prior, at least to what we had seen from Innova. But again, often it's not necessarily who really did it first. It's maybe who marketed it first or marketed it better. So that's what it felt like. So almost everybody thought when MVP originally came out is, they're just totally ripping off, the overmold process. And so I guess what I'm saying too with this Halo orbit kind of concept, I don't know that Thomas or Rusco or somebody didn't have a Halo type concept or disc years or months or years ago and never really acted on it. Maybe they made one, they made it by mistake, or never moved on it, or it turned into be a misprint or something like that, or an X out of some sorts. I feel like there's only so many ways that you can make the plastics, and that doesn't really bother me, I guess. I guess if I'm just going to cut right down to it, I don't know if that really bothers me. There's different ways to dye discs. There's different ways to swirl discs. There's different ways. This conversation was largely talked about when Innova was one of the first that we saw, of course, doing the air bubbles, and then had the Blizzard type plastic, and then there was Lucid Air and all these other air type discs. There's a lot, everybody's kind of working on these different things. Yep. Some are similar, some aren't. Some seem really similar but are totally different.
Yeah, the first plastic, I remember seeing the burst plastic for the first time from DD, and then we saw it kind of filter to other manufacturers, and then there's the swirly plastic, as someone on our board had mentioned, and then it kind of went around to other manufacturers. And when something gets hot, especially when it's just a style like that, you can almost guarantee that it's going to, at some point, be duplicated somehow.
Yeah, and I think of chameleon plastics and transitional plastics and the various blends that we've seen in those ways. I think a lot of those different styles all go around, and I don't know. I'm not a plastics engineer, clearly. Otherwise, I wouldn't be sitting next to you.
You still might be. You might not be
I'd be doing better
one.
Things. So I can't speak to that. I don't know how much of that is truly clearly it's not a patented technology, and if it is a patented technology, they're not doing a very good job of protecting it. So a lot of that doesn't bother me. I feel from the little I've read, and I hate to be a speculator, but the little I did read of the other scenario of when there was the bag from Pound versus a Prodigy bag, I think some people really missed the point in which I think Levi from Pound was going with. I think he was trying to say that, hey, I was commissioned by Prodigy And in doing so, I provided them a design, and he was, I think, contracted for it, right? Commissioned, contracted for it. And then he, by his statement on Instagram, said that they turned the bag into something unrecognizable. And he felt as if somehow he was wrong then because they took the bag and then didn't pay him with some of the terms and arrangements and agreements that they had. I just,
and we don't know the contract
exactly, and that's why I say I hate to almost speak of it simply because I can't take a side or say I know one thing or another. But I feel like the intent of the original post by Levi, I feel like wildly went off on a tangent to a place that he wasn't even intending for it to go in the first place. He wanted to make a point. He's clearly frustrated and feels like he has a beef, but I feel like the intent of his post was lost instantly by a lot of people that took it a different direction of what he was trying to say. We all know there's backpacks. We all know that. There's literally millions of backpacks.
Someone had made a point of saying that the textiles industry, you know, whether you want to look at shirts or purses or bags, anything of that nature, is one of the most copied industries in general. You know, someone comes out with a nice backpack, another company is going to rip it off, literally rip off the exact same thing and sell it cheaper with a different tag on it. You know, because there's only so many ways you build a bag. And sometimes you might like that it's got one special pouch on the side. If another backpack company comes along and puts that same pouch on the side, well, what do you do? Now, I think disc golf bags are a little bit more unique than some other things, but we've seen this in the past with one company coming out with a relatively unique product, whether it's a cart or a bag or a backpack, and other companies more or less getting a copy of it, breaking it down, probably sending it overseas and say, I want something very similar. Maybe change this like this and that like that, and then they can do it more expensive, less expensive, however it works. That will never see the end of that.
Yeah. Someone said I've lost them with my rambling, and it's largely because I don't know all the intimate details, and I really just don't want to go off on some spewing one way or another about that particular situation. It certainly was a conversation that was had. Mm-hmm. There certainly is some frustration that was held between them. I'm not sure where it's going to go or how it's going to shake out. Quite honestly, obviously, it doesn't affect Johnny and I in the slightest. But it was certainly a talking point that was out there on the internet this last weekend. So, Wes Warren, thank you so much for the super chat. It's a premium seat upgrade for the flight to Maricopa. I appreciate that. I'm always first class when I'm on my friends over at Southwest. They treat me so good over there. And everything Ballard.
You're also always third class.
Everything Ballard has also jumped in with a couple of super chats tonight. So I appreciate that. We appreciate that. Thank you so much for jumping in on it. Mainly Spin says, do you think you'll ever see Jeremy Colling sponsored by Prodigy again?
No.
Here's what I would say to that. It would be a major shock to see that happen. He speaks often of his relationship with Innova, his love for Charlotte, Innova, everything Innova has provided him, the success of his Thunderbird signature series, his intimate love and affection for Sexton, who drives his boat or whatever he does for him. I don't see that happen. Then again, crazier things have happened. Let's be real.
Sure.
I don't see it happening in our lifetime.
And part of it is Jeremy's on the downside of his career.
Ouch.
He is.
Okay, go on.
He's on the downside of his playing career.
Okay.
He's going to be moving more into probably a media role over the next 5 years. I'm not saying he's washed up by any means. I'm saying that what was the last major event he won? USDGC a couple years ago? Waco after that?
Yeah, a couple Wacos.
I'm just saying, no one's picking him to take first place these days. And that's no offense to Jeremy. I think he knows this. So I don't see him moving when I don't believe other manufacturers are hot to trot on a player of his age and his stature these days on the course. Now, if a company wanted to buy him because he is one of the voices of our sport on Jomez, that could be something interesting, but I don't see that as being enough of a money maker or draw at this point that another company would do that, which is why I say I don't think he'll ever leave Innova again.
Everything Ballard, just to put it all out on the board, says $20, says Germ leaves Innova in the next 3 years. Want to take that bet? And I'm going to go ahead and throw out a clarification. Are you saying that he leaves and goes to Prodigy, as what was just initially asked, or that he just leaves Innova in general? Those are two very different wagers.
Correct. I would bet that he doesn't leave for another manufacturer in the next 3 years. There could be a point where for some reason, who knows, let's just pretend Jomez is his primary sponsor.
Yeah, and that's exactly where I was. Yeah, my logic would have placed it if somehow some conflict or something came about where it wasn't fruitful enough for him to be with Innova because of a gig of that nature. I think that's a very different story. But I would place a $20 wager that he does not leave Innova to go to Prodigy specifically.
I don't think so.
I don't see that happening. All right. Ray asks a good question, and Ray, I know this sounds crazy, but I think people that are way smarter than all of us combined are in the works of this. He asks, how do you even start the process of getting data organized and actually make odds? I know it's been in the works for a few years, and clearly people like Johnny, who has at least a toe in the door in terms of your fantasy disc golf. And then you think about, again, math people that are way smarter than you. Way smarter.
It takes a lot.
Yeah, but it's happened. And who was our sponsor on the Disc Golf Network once or twice this year?
Prize Picks.
Prize Picks.
And I don't know if they're sponsoring this upcoming year. They might be. I know there was a relationship being formed, but and those of you who are longtime Smashies know that I told a story a few years ago of a gentleman who makes odds in Vegas who I reached out to. And I asked him, I said, what would it take for disc golf to get on the boards? Basically. So for me to be able to walk up in Vegas and say, I would like to make a bet on that sport. And he says, you would need history. You would need a way for these odds makers to be able to look at the longevity of a player on the particular course that they're on and have some sort of history, because it would be very difficult to make odds on an unknown course. So once these courses, and I think we're starting to get there, that we're seeing these repetitive courses being played year after year after year, we're getting closer. Let's put it that way. And with UDisc and Statmando having those numbers will help out quite a bit. I don't necessarily think it's in the process of actually happening right now, but I mean, we're getting closer to where it's possible to happen.
I'm rewinding for just a moment. Earlier in the regular show, thanks to the generosity of Ricky and Dynamic Discs and those guys, it looks like we have possibly hunted down the giveaway winner for the regular show. Eric had reached out and made a comment earlier, and then he sent me an email. So Eric, if you're still watching, it looks like I have your email, and I will forward that on to our fine friends over at Dynamic, and hopefully you'll get that Ricky Wysocki signed disc that we gave away. They gave away earlier on the show. All right. Reading up on anything else, once people can make 30 footers, it could be a whole different game. Okay, I think a lot of people can. I'll just quickly tag onto that is Statmando and UDisc. Is it even conceivable that I don't know if bought out's the right word, but a serious collaboration or partnership with one of them or something like them that could then help build these stats for a Prize Picks or a FanDuel or whatever. I mean, that's exactly what we're going to need, as you just said, right?
Correct. I mean, in Vegas, you know that you can bet on, when it comes to football or baseball, you can bet on almost anything. You can bet whether, I know he doesn't play anymore, but we'll say Alex Rodriguez would get a home run. You could bet on the over-under. You can bet on the spread. You can bet on so many things. With disc golf, it's a lot more difficult because we don't have a lot of those stats. So you're going to bet with, right now, what we can bet on is winning and losing. You could probably bet on a spread. You know, how many strokes or how many birdies is Ricky going to get? And that's kind of how Prize Picks works, is you bet on an over-under with a multiple players. So is Paul McBeth going to shoot 8 under, better or worse? You get to pick. The more stats we have, the more chances there are to gamble, the more chances these companies that supply gambling have a chance to make money off of your losses. That's when it will hit.
Totally unrelated. I'm going to throw this one out of left field. Big shout out. I think the original idea, I don't know who had the original idea, but either way, I know at least 3 people of our top professionals jumped in on this. Ricky Wysocki, Austin Hannum, Brody Smith, all had made posts on Twitter, and a long story short is they all said, hey, let's continue to grow the membership base and support the membership base of the PDGA. And in some level, all 3 of them had said, you know, tweet, retweet, reply, whatever they asked for you to do. And then they went out and covered some PDGA memberships or membership renewals. So certainly credit where credit's due for all 3 of those guys. If there were more, I'd love to hear it. They deserve the equal shout out, but really cool to see the 3 of them just kind of take this random initiative to say, hey, let's go pay some PDGA memberships. And I'm going to read what everything Ballard said, because he knows the name of the game. If you want something read or at least consumed, Super Chat's a good way to do it. He says, people can bet on basketball and horse racing, but the courts and tracks are the same no matter where they are. But with disc golf courses being so different, how would you even consider the odds? I think some of the things that we saw from Prize Picks is maybe a way to answer that, in the sense that they would say, oh, we think so Calvin Heimberg's going to get more than 10 birdies this round. I mean, just, dare I say, a little more generic, and it's in terms of some of the things that you pull from.
They're not doing so much as the number of birdies as the actual score. And with PDGA ratings, you can kind of estimate that. If you know if you know a course, if even on a course is, 10, 20, and each rating point is worth about, let's just say 6, you could say, Calvin is probably going to shoot an 8 under or whatever that might be, 10 under, whatever the math works out to. I'm not going to figure it out here live. And that's where you put the line. So I'm not saying it can't be done right now, but it comes down to the numbers. The more options they have to take your money, the more likely they will be to take it.
Justin out on the board says, Double G paid for my daughter's membership with regard to the PDGA. I don't know if that was part of this recent initiative or if that was part of the Double G Foundation that he's been working on through the Double G Jerky. Either way, huge shout out similarly to Double G. And that also brings up another point that was brought to us here on the board. Thank you. Also announced was a departure of sorts that just yesterday, meaning what would have been Monday the 3rd, Paul McBeth had made an announcement saying that he's stepping away from the company, the foundation, or Foundation Disc Golf.
Did he rip off a jersey, walk off the field, and give peace signs to the people when he left?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay.
Although it would have been funny, not going to lie.
Are you familiar with what happened?
Yes,
okay.
Yes, I am. But any hot takes on that? Does that surprise you?
Yes, it surprised me. I don't have any hot takes. There were some explanations that seemed to make sense. Paul, they kind of make sense, I think. Paul, in general, doesn't have the time to dedicate to foundation because of his foundation and multiple other things that the other guys are putting in. So knowing Paul a little bit, I could see how one of the responses would be, well, I'm not pulling my weight, so, and I don't necessarily need this like the other guys probably do, so I will pass it on to them. I could see that being a solution for Paul, because Paul's a hard worker, as we all know, and if he can't pull his weight, I could see him just stepping away. And I feel like that's probably what this is, in that he just can't put in the effort that the other guys are, and it probably feels lopsided for him to be a third owner, let's just play pretend, take a third of the profits and not really put anything into the company. So now, granted, there are, the way I look at it, I would be like, well, there's plenty of silent partners in the world. I'd have no problem doing that. But I'm greedy, so. But on the other hand, Paul doesn't have a lot of time to dedicate to that. But I do know Paul is doing other videos and stuff with Hannah and things like that. So I don't know if that's separate, if he wants to dedicate more time to that and less to Foundation. I don't know. I don't see anything. I don't have a hot take. I don't think there's anything nefarious. I don't think there's any sort of falling out. I just kind of think that he just can't put in the effort.
Yeah, it was, I think, fair to say it was at least a little bit surprising to some, and maybe not. I don't know.
It was surprising to me.
We're also not in the typical daily ins and outs of everything that they're working on. So maybe there were hints, maybe there were clues. I can't speak to that, but I know I was a little bit surprised. I know someone else said on the board, and I feel like this is a very valid statement, just saying how it sometimes can be a little bit confusing to hear of Paul McBeth and then Foundation, and then there's the Paul McBeth Foundation as opposed to the company Foundation Disc Golf.
I could see some confusion.
I can certainly understand that. I don't think that's why he parted ways or anything like that. But just in general, at first when I read it, that was the first thing that went through my mind when I very quickly skimmed the headline or the screenshot or whatever it was. I read it as Paul McBeth leaving the Paul McBeth Foundation. Is just immediately, I'm like, okay, I mean, yeah, he's probably busy, but that's weird.
He found another guy named Paul McBeth, and he's going to put him in.
No, I just thought it was really weird, and so, yeah, I'm sure. Then again, I'm not smart, so it doesn't take much to confuse me. But, yeah, so we saw that happen as well. A couple questions that were on the board, which are quite pertinent. Ray asks, are you going to still have Nate Perkins on the sidelines for some DGN broadcasts, and does Perkins get paid for that time? Short answer is yes. He will be.
Yes and yes.
Doing sideline stuff. To what degree, I don't make that decision, but it looks like he's certainly on the schedule and on the calendar to do so. And then yes, he also does get paid for that time. Absolutely.
It's actually the next contract we're about to announce was the Nate Perkins million for million.
Yes.
Yeah.
1 million words this year.
Yep, 1 million words.
He's gonna have to beef it up because his check-ins are usually pretty short.
It's going to be tough.
On point, but short. So we're going to hear a lot from Nate. He's like, I got to make my contract, otherwise he's going to
doesn't get paid.
Shirt,
so
no. So yes, he does get paid for his time. Also, do we expect Ian, Philo, and Sexton and the Dosses this season to be in the booth?
Yes.
Again,
yes.
As far as I know of, that absolutely is all within the works. I think we're going to also see and hear more from the likes of Christine Jennings and Elaine King and myself. I don't know if there's anyone new, so to speak.
I assume we're going to hear some from Charlie Eisenhood. Maybe. I know at the last event that we did of the year, basically, the Next Gen, we had Brian Earhart. He might pop in there. I haven't seen the schedule, but it wouldn't shock me if Earhart were to kind of hop in on an event or two.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Just to be brutally honest, a lot of those things we have not fleshed out yet, or if they have been fleshed out, Johnny and I don't necessarily know them. So,
and for me,
but as far as that's
really
what
matter.
that's what I know is
the three yahoos talking about disc golf
or four
or two while I'm trying to direct cameras. I don't care what 3 or 4 yahoos they are.
I want to be a yahoo.
Too late. I'd mute them all in my head if I could, but unfortunately I can't. I need to take audio cues from them for commercials and such, because I can't throw it to a commercial in the middle of Terry, like, we'll be right back after, and then have it cut out. I need to listen, unfortunately, to Terry, throw it to a commercial. So that's just more of Terry in my ears.
It sounds like on the board, at least, there's speculation with regard to potentially Hunter's Twitter activities versus when Paul is leaving Foundation. I can't speak to any of that. You might be dead on. You might be dead wrong. Sue was saying that the timing seemed weird, but nonetheless, Johnny nor I could speak to any validity in any capacity there. We just simply don't know. Ray then says, listing all of these names, it is crazy for how many people do commentary.
That's just live we were talking. Can you imagine if you tried to include all the post-production too?
Yeah.
Everybody's got a commentary gig these days.
Mike Jewel is out there saying some of us drone on. All right. Sam says, between sideline or booth, what do you have more enjoyment from? You do good at both, but I wonder what you enjoy more.
Good question, Terry. What do you enjoy more? If I told you there's a brand new event, Terry, in Madison, Wisconsin.
Like the U.S. Women's Championships?
Like the U.S. Women's Championships. You have your choice. You could go be a sideline reporter, or you can stay here and do commentary.
Is it relevant that it's about an hour from where we live?
I tried to pick one that was close because whatever. But
an event, that specific event, I would like to be on site for. And it's funny because I feel like I intimately know the courses in this case.
Which is why I think you wouldn't have to be on site as opposed to a new course. One of the reasons
correct. I very much, I do like I really dislike the idea of ever calling play from the booth to a course I've never stepped foot on. Now, I don't necessarily have had to play it, but to call. And this goes back to the U.S. Women's that took place in California this last year. I had never played or seen any of the three courses that the women were playing for the U.S. Women's. So as soon as the OTB Open was done, the very next day I drove to that area, and then over the next 2 days, I walked and or played all three of those courses, or followed actually Madison and Erica for one of them, but that's how I still learned the course. I felt I was so much more well prepared having physically been on those courses. I still then ended up flying into Bend and then doing the commentary on them, but I feel like my job was done so much better because I had seen those three courses by giving them each one quick walkthrough. So I'll just put that out there. Every event is a little different. There's some events that I want to go to every year. There's some events I could go to every 2 or 3 years. I want to know the course if I'm going to be in the booth. That's a given. And then it just kind of depends on the atmosphere of the event. Like, I'm not going to lie. Calling Vegas, I know the course is intimately, calling Vegas from Bend isn't as exciting as being on the sidelines and then being in Vegas. So those are kind of individual event considerations, and I'm obviously just one person on a whole team, so it's not entirely up to me by any means. So those are all the thoughts that go into it. I don't know if I answered you, but that's at least the thought process. Some events I love being at, some events I'm indifferent to.
Carney says, I'd love to see Owen Scoggins do commentary.
She's a little...
I said that would be chaos.
Abruptly raw.
It'd be the best kind of chaos I can imagine.
It would be. She is brutally honest.
It would not be everybody's.
She does not hold back. I would love it. I would be.
I think it'd be so
rolling on the floor, entertained, laughing and entertained. I think a lot of people would be, but yes, she would. Yeah, she would be hilarious, but maybe not everyone's cup of tea. She'd be hilarious, though. Is DGN going to have FPO and MPO split in the future, or DGN2 for coverage is full or both divisions?
There are talks right now of splitting it up, MPO and FPO, but I don't know where those talks stand. I'm not 100% sure. Mo had mentioned it on the Upshot podcast, and I know there's been some behind-the-scenes talk, so having the women go in the morning again, and then take a break and then have the men go in the afternoon. And they do that simply because of numbers. You have to have the women go first because they're a smaller field. If the men were to try to go first, you would have to somehow find a way to put the lead card earlier in the day, because obviously every round is about 3 to 3.5 hours, maybe 4 or 5, depending on the course. You could not finish the MPO and then get to the FPO and have them separate. You'd run into what we are running into now, which is where we have to kind of mesh and then split, MPO to MPO, FPO to FPO. So there is talk about going back to the old way and having FPO as a separate stream. I don't know. I mean, I can't say I'm indifferent to it, because I clearly have an opinion. I think that there is going to be, as there is with everything, there's going to be kickback. You're going to hear some of the women complain and some of the spectators complain that they don't want to be getting up at 7 in the morning, 6 in the morning, 5 in the morning, depending on where you're at, to get to the course, to get warmed up. We saw a couple of years ago, I think it was Jonesboro, we just saw the Disc Golf Pro Tour retweet some old pictures of the women playing in the morning snow because it had snowed there.
Yeah, which could have come in the afternoon for the men instead.
Could have come in the afternoon.
I know.
We've heard the women talking about some of the courses where they would get, some of the first cards would have to get to the course so early that the course was literally still locked. And I don't think we're going to see that type of stuff anymore. But there will be a contingent of players that do not like playing in the morning. Just like there's a few women who do not like playing in the afternoon because it feels like it breaks up their day. I know Katrina Allen, I think, would rather play in the morning, rather get it done, be done, and then go do her workout and eat her steaks and then be ready to go again. She has said that doing it in the afternoon kind of throws off her schedule, but you're not going to please everybody. There are pros and cons to either way. Having the women separate gives them their own storylines that you can fully flesh out and complete. And I 100% get that. It also puts additional stress on the commentators, the cameramen, the producers, the directors, by having it separate, because it's a longer day. But it is also maybe a little less stressful at times that you're not trying to balance two divisions when something awesome is happening in FPO on holes 3, 4, and 5, but something awesome is also happening with the men, and it's on 16, 17, 18, which, how do you justify which is more important? Everybody is going to say 16, 17, 18 because it's the end of the round. But those holes 3, 4, and 5 could be completely changing a division. And to not see it live, there's weights and balances and measurements that we all need to kind of take into account. So the short answer is, I don't know if we're going to split it or not, but I think we're 60-40 right now. If I'm taking a finger in the air, 60-40, we're going to split it.
What I heard from that answer was, if I listen to other disc golf podcasts, I may find out what my workload looks like this year.
Maybe.
I love it. Sounds like a plan. I will start tuning in.
Tune into everybody, Terry.
I will. All right, some other questions that are coming in off the board. First of all, everything Ballard trying to hustle hard for us. We appreciate it, pal.
Thank you.
He's commanding everyone else, demanding that they go out there and super chat. I don't have any Tear Bear stamped CE Firebirds, unfortunately, but I mean, if somebody wanted to stamp some up. The old days of splitting broadcast was best for YouTube community. The FPO chat was always the same folks and a lot of fun. As Johnny just alluded to, tons of added benefits and then a few drawbacks as well. I won't rehash it all. There's plenty of them. You need to start moving those Firebirds, Terry. You might retire with the money you would make off them. Yeah, but that means I'd have to let go of stuff.
Or you could wait and then sell them when you retire.
Yeah. I don't know if I'm ever going to retire. Sue says she doesn't like missing 9 holes of the FPO every round. I can understand that, Sue. I want to see an interview where Owen comments on the Scoggins brothers, not just Justin. You know more than I do. I don't know anything outside of Justin or other Scoggins brothers. So you know more than I do. We're already lost.
Let's give something away, though, Terry.
Let's do it. Terry needs meds? I do? I don't think I do. I'm jacked up. I'm high on life, bro.
Excuse me.
Sometimes I'm taking the ice though.
Yeah,
sparkling
you
ice.
got the sparkling ice. I've got
I'm so
my
bad.
water here.
So
For those of you that maybe are new to the podcast and tuning in just for Ricky and hung around, we do a giveaway every week. This week we gave away 2 things.
Holy cow.
Yeah, we had Ricky give something away, sign something for Eric. And now we do our Patreon giveaway. So if you want to be eligible for our weekly giveaway, you can sign up at patreon.com/SmashboxTV. For as little as $1 a month, you can be eligible in all of our entries. And you can also go to smashbox.tv/weekly giveaway. Weekly giveaways? Figure it out. I think it's weekly giveaways. And you can sign up there as well to be part of the weekly giveaway. Like this week, we had 2 people. It looks like it was Gordon and Robert both signed up via the website.
So
they are entered.
The fancy phrasing of no purchase necessary. You do not have to purchase.
Correct. You do not have.
That applies here. We are that fancy, folks.
But you do need to go every week and fill out the form if you want to be eligible for our weekly giveaway. So that is on you to remember that. Or you can just be a Patreon supporter and save yourself the time and give us some cash.
So if you do some quick math, in theory, if you are the most frugal of frugal, which I can support,
you're Ricky Wysocki,
you could get away with potentially contributing $12 for the whole year. That's $1 a month, $12 for the whole year, but yet for 52 weeks out of the year or more, because we probably do at least on average 1 a week. Sometimes we give away multiples. You have more than 52 chances, or at least 52 chances to win something that's going to be worth more than said $12. And that's if you're doing the bare minimum.
Those numbers add up.
Oh my
Terry.
gosh.
Some weeks we give away shirts. Some weeks we give away the disc member box, which is a minimum of a $25 value.
Crazy.
We give away all sorts of stuff. But anyway, again, patreon.com/SmashboxTV. Please go ahead and sign up and support independent podcasts like us. So thank you very much. Terry, we have 178 people eligible for our giveaway this week. Whoa, what are we going to do? What number are we going to throw out there to
our friends over at random.org? Well, Ricky Wysocki. I always find a way to get to 2. I was going to say it has 2 world titles.
It's the second time with the trilogy
No. We're going big time.
There were 2 people at the
Nope. All that. Those all
interview.
make sense, but we're going big time. There have, to my knowledge, have been 5 significant signings over at the Dynamic Disc family this year. So tonight we will generate 5 numbers. The 5th number is the one that will then correlate to Johnny V's spreadsheet, and that's how our winner will be selected tonight. Again, 5 superstars over there that were signed to DD this year. Fresh ones.
All
so
right.
that's how we're going to do it.
All right, every time I generate a number, I want you to tell me the person you're thinking. So our first number, 56.
Mason Ford.
Second number, 14.
Valerie Mundahano.
Third number, 166.
Gavin Rathbun.
Fourth number, 48.
Kona Panis.
And our 5th and final number, our guest tonight, number 35, Terry.
Oh, he's never even made a 35-footer. Ricky Wysocki.
They're too short for him. Number 35. Let me go over.
Johnny V's going to double-check the spreadsheet with all of our incredible contributors. And
I sorted it by first name, so it's going to be an early name. I sorted by first name. Number 35 is Chad Kelly. Congratulations, Chad Kelly. You are going to win the prize tonight.
Heck yeah, you are, Chad. I should dig. I had our friends over at Latitude stamped up some Disc Golf Guy stuff for me with a Tear Bear stamp on it from a while ago. I should try and hunt one of those down. I did sell quite a few of those, but I should try and hunt one of those down. Maybe I can get you a Latitude/Trilogy stamped.
That could be kind of cool.
Branded disc.
And Chad Kelly, if you happen to be size XXL, Miles from Paragon sent an extra shirt or 2 our way, and reach out if you are an XXL. Reach out. We'll get that to Terry, and he can ship that out to you. I don't know what the odds of that are in particular, but just they're double XLs, and we'll see how it works. So we could give one of those to you as well. But
All right. I see fake PDGA is out there. Fake PDGA. I'm just going to throw this out there, folks. You've seen a few of the memes. You've seen a little bit of the work done by fake PDGA throughout these last couple of years. I think he has officially put out a call saying if you can disguise his voice, his or her voice, then he or she is open to being on a public podcast, which I think is a pretty big move. But I've learned he or she wants to be on ours first.
Oh, I would love to have he or she on. I bet you we could find a way to mess with someone's voice. Hold on a second once.
So that might be something that's in the works. We'll see if something of that nature could we could maybe get to the bottom of a few things. And if that's something that Johnny could work some magic on and we could find a way to make it happen, we'll see.
How does Terry sound right now?
Okay, we could do a live test with it right now. I'm sure I sound great. I sound great in my ear.
In your ear, but it's going out to the world right now,
Oh,
Terry.
okay.
All I did was mess with the EQ.
Okay, well, maybe we could find, like I said, we'll have to do some testing.
I'm going to turn that off. I don't know what it sounds like. It could be horrible. It probably was horrible.
Oh, yes, Ray. Fake PDG is actually Disc Blaster. No, here's what I will say, and I don't know if this is fair or not, but fake PDGA is not typically mean to me or us. Not typically. I have seen some shots thrown, as there should be. I am certainly not above any form of memery or mockery. I've put myself in that position, and I'm good with it. But overall, I don't feel like I get the brunt of some of the harsher memes that have been sent out by fake PDGA.
And the ones you do from
PDGA
fake
Rodman.
PDGA or from fake PDGA, I think are rightful. If you say something dumb or make a comment about a tree, maybe that wants to
visit me,
and be friendly with you.
What's nothing wrong with that?
Then maybe some of those are deserved.
Well, it will. We'll see if we can make something like that happen one way or another. Carney is saying fake PDGA is Drew Gibson 100%. I don't know if we'll get to. I'm guessing. Well, if they want their voice disguised, I don't know that we're going to get to. Maybe there'll be some other hints that our super sleuths will be able to arrive at whoever the person may be. That would be, man, wouldn't that be a backfire? Somehow we out fake PDGA.
I wouldn't like that.
No, that wouldn't be my intention, but you never know. Maybe they're not savvy in front of the. Are we gonna have to put up like a fuzzy wall too?
Like so when they give it away with something like when I was driving around in my McLaren the other day, you're like, no, now we know who it is.
When I was getting my ninth tattoo on my arm, yeah, for my sleeve, yeah. Then when I was polishing my I don't know, my 12th world title trophy. Yeah, maybe not. Tim says fake PDJ is Ari, who we had earlier. We'll see how this all shakes out. Somebody says PDJ Rodman took Big Germ getting his stuff stolen to learn about the hot dog bandit. Yeah, I mean that was a moment that all came out. I wonder how many of you guys called that. How many people thought the hot dog bandit was in fact Big Germ? But all right, well, we are going to call it here. We have so grateful. It's going to be another year. Smashbox TV's podcast. What are we? Seven-ish years? More than 7 years. Mm-hmm. almost every Tuesday with you.
And you.
7 years and then some. So if you're new tonight, I'm sorry.
No,
turn it off, run.
You can't apologize. This was a great show. We had Ari and Ricky and Emac.
Yeah. But seriously, if you're new here, we saw a ton of additional faces and logins and viewers. Thank you so much for joining us. Every week is relatively laid back. It's almost always going to be fun, and hopefully we're giving you guys a little reprieve. May not be the hardest hitting and controversial, but usually we have something good for you to chew on, or at least something for you to listen to while you're driving across country, going from one event to another.
I just read a funny comment. Hunter announced who fake PDGA was in a tweet yesterday. That's just funny.
There's an even funnier way I would have taken it, but I'll save that one for myself. Thank you guys. Seriously, we wish you the best in 2022. We hope you had a great new year, but honestly, everything's looking amazing for what's in store for us, from a post-production, live production, the players, the teams, the managers, the equipment, the sponsors, just so many things that we can have to look forward to, including our silliness right here on Tuesday.
And I'm hoping next week we have more sponsorship announcements to make. And
I'm guessing there will be more for sure to at least talk about. Maybe we can get an exclusive. Maybe an exclusive sponsorship announcement here. Maybe not. For Johnny V, myself, thank you guys so much for joining us. Again, final shout out to EMAC, Ricky Wysocki, and Ari. Thank you guys so much for joining us in the regular show. We'll see you right here, 9 o'clock Central, for our second podcast of the year in 2022. We'll see you next week when you step inside the Smashbox.